All right, meeting will come to order. This is the Water Quality Management Committee for the town of Falmouth. We have a couple of quick deviations from the agenda just in terms of time. Nate Weeks is here, who has delivered to the members copies of the draft comprehensive wastewater management plan. Does everyone on the committee have their copy of that?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Nate wants to take a minute or two just to say something about that, and Nate, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Eric. It's quite a bit of text there in front of you. Certainly, when you try to summarize a 5 years' worth of work, it is a challenge. I greatly appreciate the text that you provided for the executive summary. It was very, very good text, and just provided great direction for me to be able to carry the tone, but then also the recommended plan, and particularly the schedule and implementation and financing right on through into it. At the same time that I was summarizing all the evaluations that had to fit into certain chapters. So I think it's come together well. I feel very good about it. I think that it's easy to read for the regulators. It's fairly easy to read for a layperson too. There are 2 CDs that are in pockets in it. And the first CD has the needs assessment report, as well as the alternative screening analysis report on it. The second CD has all of those technical memoranda and some additional things, particularly a lot of the supporting information for ocean outfalls, John Waterbury's articles, and a lot of the supporting information. And then there's also several shellfish cultivation white papers, I call them. Some of them, I think a couple of them were jury. And one of them is done by a planner, Bill Hickox from Martha's Vineyard. That's quite good. So, good luck reading it. I look forward to your comments, and we'll take the next step from there.
Mm-hmm. See you next week.
Right.
Yeah, I won't be here next week.
Right.
I've got to go to an event next week.
I think the premise is we're going to, obviously the committee members will all read it and review it and make their own observations via email. Next week we'll take up all the committee's observations and make changes as the committee sees fit and pass them along to you.
Okay, that would be good, if that's all right with you. I mean, I am sorry that I have this other event.
Then just a question of process. If we take one volume and basically mark it up with wherever changes are made that the committee approves.
That'd be very convenient for me.
Okay. And then how quickly can you turn around the final copy? Because we'll ultimately be presenting it to the public and the Board of Selectmen. Mm-hmm. And I'm presuming we would want, a clean draft, not a preliminary draft.
Right, yeah.
So
I think I can turn it around in 2 weeks.
within 2 weeks.
Yeah, July 9th is the date we're going to need it, so
Yes.
I'm sure you can do it by then.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. I just want to make sure that that's doable.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee for Nate? Thank you for this effort.
Okay, yes, thank you. That's great.
We appreciate it. Let me jump just quickly to number 5, introduction of technical assistant. Technically, the technical assistant is not on board yet, since the town takes longer to do almost anything than you could imagine, including hire a 6-month consultant. But for anyone who doesn't know her, Sia Karplus will be our new technical assistant here, and she comes off of the front page of the Enterprise last week, having designed the world's most advanced solar energy system for the ice rink in Falmouth here. So
Congratulations. I read that. That was interesting.
Wasn't that something?
Yeah.
So we expect as much for us too now.
No question.
So good.
Where should we put the next ice rink?
How about the treatment plant?
We look forward to it.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Jerry and Sia, when do you think you actually think your first day of work will be?
When Julian signs the contract. However, as is not unusual with a lot of consultants, people can proceed at their own risk with the clear understanding that once it gets signed, we pay for things we had asked, like attendance tonight and next week, hopefully. So, you know, she's basically on the payroll now,
Oh,
you know, at her own risk.
I see. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Oh,
Yeah.
we might have further discussions to keep the sanity of all of us. Information that we want her to do should go through Eric. Eric will give it to me. Once an assignment is made that she's working with a particular subcommittee, then that subcommittee would go one-on-one. I don't intend to interject myself in those discussions. The only thing I'm going to interject myself directly on will be budget, contract management, administration. And there were three broad categories. Contract management, which includes budget and then maybe assistance with RFPs, reviewing them, QA, QC before they go out. The second one was public outreach, which definitely needs to be developed, such as do we want a PowerPoint presentation or anything for the July, you know. And the third one was technical review and assistance on a myriad of subjects that the committee may request, or that through attendance and things like that, CM may be able to say, you know, I can offer some suggestions. So it would be a fluid but organized approach.
Okay.
As we have been up till now.
Yes.
Discussion of proposed tasks is item number 5, and if we get to it tonight, we'll spend a little time on that.
Eric, just one housekeeping. Where I distribute documents around prior to meetings to
Right.
people, do I put her on the CC list for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He'll
I
need
just didn't
your-
know if that had to go to Jerry, then to her, or whether
No,
she's
he'll-
on the CC.
he'll-
Okay.
She already has it.
You have the email address?
Give it to me at the end of the meeting.
Fine,
Oh,
great.
you need it.
Get your microphone on. Get your microphone on there so the public can hear you. All right, moving on to the top of the agenda now. Presentations of STEP, STEG, grinder, vacuum technologies. We have vendors here. They've all been advised that 15 minutes for a presentation and hopefully 10 or up to 15 for questions and answers on each topic as they come along.
How many vendors?
3, I'm told, right? Who wants to go first?
I'll be up for STEG, Falmouth.
STEP, STEG, okay.
Orenco, as you see him. Orenco is,
Orenco.
Orenco, got it.
Okay.
Yep, okay. We all have an Orenco handout. Okay, do we have any more Orenco handouts for?
there's some over there.
Okay,
And I have more.
okay, folks back here would like some. There they go.
You have one, Roy?
Okay, I guess we need one more over here.
I need one over there. Committee Orenco.
Thanks.
Okay, good.
There you go.
I think we're all set.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, you're on.
And the clock is ticking.
My name is Mike Saunders. I'm with Orenco Systems. If you're not familiar with Orenco, we've been in business for almost 30 years. The company was founded by a couple engineers that were actually looking for a solution for a community in Oregon. So that's actually our foundation, is providing wastewater solutions. And to this day, it's funny, with our founders, they're actually even a little insulted if you call them a manufacturer. They actually see themselves as a wastewater solutions company, and products just came by default to find solutions. So today, Orenco does effluent sewers, as you see here. We also do on-site treatment, which we're actually almost better known for, and we also do decentralized treatment. I had the pleasure to drive around Falmouth a little bit and really noted you have a lot of challenges here. Just some of them, the topography, the elevation of some of the properties, the size of the lots. One thing I noticed, it certainly isn't consistent all over the place. You have certain pockets and certain type of homes, and definitely will be a struggle. The traffic is definitely notable, and you know, we started thinking about putting sewers in it. Traffic is actually a pretty big consideration. Heavily vegetated lots. Availability of property is definitely a challenge. Regional priorities, they have their hot spots. What I mean by hot spots is that when you're trying to find a solution, sometimes you don't need to do everything. Sometimes there's little pockets that make more sense to do than others, and I'll actually touch on that a little bit. high water table, and seasonal population variations. And these, I think when you're trying to find a wastewater solution, it's really hard to find the solution that actually identifies all these and tries to fit into this puzzle. So you saw on the first slide, we called it effluent sewer. It's also known as STEP, which stands for Septic Tank Effluent Pumping Systems, or STEG, Septic Tank Effluent Gravity Systems. It's interesting because I think Aramco has been trying to coin it effluent sewer for a lot of years, probably 10 or 15 years. In fact, one point when I started with Aramco, they said, always refer to it as effluent sewer. And the reason they did that is they really don't like the word septic tank starting being the first thing that's associated with our technology. And I think it's because people hear septic tank and they think it's just an on-site system or something similar to what they have in their property now. So they've tried real hard to call it effluent sewer. I interchange it a whole lot. I'll call it step-steg, I'll call it effluent sewer. It's all the same thing. So the concept of effluent sewer. If you look at your septic tank and profile, you're going to see that once you put wastewater in it and you detain that wastewater for a certain amount of time, you're going to get 3 layers that form inside that tank. Scum layer at the top, a sludge layer at the bottom, and a clear zone that'll form in the middle of the tank. And the concept of STEP, or effluent sewer, is always to pull from this clear zone that forms in the middle of the tank. We want to keep the solids in the tank for as long as we can. So unlike a septic tank, we're not normally pumping these every 5 years. We're actually targeting 10 years or more to keep those solids there and break them down. And same thing, we want to keep the scum here. And all we're going to send to the treatment plant is wastewater that's already received primary treatment. So in terms of wastewater strength, if anybody on the committee is familiar with that, we're looking at wastewater strength that's down around 130 to 150 BOD. Suspended solids around 30 milligrams per liter. Oils and grease are usually down around 20 or 30 milligrams per liter. So it's not full strength wastewater that's leaving these facilities. And you can imagine that by doing that, we create some advantages, not only in how you can pump this, how you can treat it. There's a whole lot of benefits that you can actually quantify on the fact that we have primary treatment already occurring here. So the key to effluent sewer is the interceptor tank, and I'm going to stop calling it a septic tank. And this is where it starts. We want to start with an interceptor tank. And the idea, again, is to catch that wastewater that comes from the home and keep it there for a certain amount of time. Unlike a septic tank, this tank tends to be a little bit bigger. So instead of homes that might be on a 900 or 1,000 gallon septic tank, we're usually targeting 1,500 gallons or more for an effluent tank. And the reason being is it's money well spent to use a tank that is larger size and keep those solids in there for as long as we can. As far as tank choices, you have different options. If high quality tanks are available locally, we will use local concrete tanks. The one you see on the right is a fiberglass tank. It tends to be a little more expensive, but it's certainly more robust. And then we do approve one polyethylene tank as well that's competitive on price with a concrete tank, but offers some of the benefits as far as handling ability and the weight of a fiberglass tank. So when we start talking about a system, we actually start talking about the tanks first and what type of tank we'd actually specify in that system. And there is cost considerations, operations considerations associated with each. So the biggest question we always get asked, or the finger that's pointed at us, is why would you want this tank in your property? Because really you're trying to get wastewater off the property. And this is just a list of some of the functionality that interceptor tank has. I already talked a little bit about the free primary treatment occurring. Reduces wastewater strength, reduces biosolids volume. So when you start evaluating wastewater and going to the plant, every wastewater process is going to produce biosolids. If I can keep a large portion of those biosolids in the tank for a long period of time, and this is detention time I can't create in a plant, I have the ability to reduce overall biosolids volume by 60 to 90%. So when you start thinking about all the issues today with handling biosolids and what you're going to do with it, sometimes that's a real big element to quantify and look at the cost of. Increases the efficiency of conveyance to the treatment plant. The best way I describe this, if you take the solids out of the wastewater, it behaves more like a water main. So when you think about how water mains are laid out in this community and the fact that they're gridded and you can pump water all over the place, that same characteristic is applied to effluent sewer. We're not as concerned about maintaining flow velocities in that line and having solids settle and potentially clog that line. So it gives us a lot of flexibility on where we pump it to, how we maybe pull that wastewater off and treat it. A lot of flexibility. Increases pump longevity, really because we're not pumping solids, so we can use different pumps and it's a lot more efficient pump. It can decrease pumping costs. Provides emergency storage volume. Typically in the worst case scenario, you're looking at about 200 gallons in this tank if the power goes off, depending on where the last pump down interval was. Allows for lower cost treatment alternatives. Again, because it's already received primary treatment, there's options on what I can do to treat it that might be less costly. And it can eliminate the need for lift stations. Again, because I don't have to worry about flow velocity, I can pump these things huge distances, depending on what line size you get. The system's pumping over 10 miles without a lift station. So if you want to just get familiar with some of the components, this is a pump vault, so you can see the various views. Here's where it's dropped down in the tank. This is a cutaway. This is from the top. And essentially, the pump vault, wastewater enters into the vault through a series of holes on the side, enters into a filter. And the reason we have a filter, which sounds a little weird in a wastewater application, filter's there to protect the pump. The pump is when they first started doing effluent sewers, they were using cast iron pumps that were lower quality, lower cost, but they didn't last very long, 5 or 6 years. If you're familiar with pumps, this is very similar to a well pump. And Orenco was one of the pioneers in using well pumps because they knew that these pumps lasted a long time and were very reliable. So typical pump is, in our case, we're targeting 20 to 25 years of pump life. And then if something fails in it, it's very easy to rebuild. It's 4 screws. I can replace the motor end that's on the bottom, or I can replace the liquid end on the top for about $100. So that's real key to how cost effective this system is. So wastewater comes in here, goes in the filter. The filtered water comes up here to where our pump controls are, or goes down up into where the pump is to discharge. And altogether, this is called the pump vault. That's just another view of it. So this is the pump. And it's all stainless steel. It's single phase, 115 volt power, so it's fairly easy to add to any existing home. Very lightweight, it's under 30 pounds, so it's very easy to manage, lift out of a pit. Long life cycle, and as I mentioned, it breaks apart right here at this midpoint. There's 4 screws here. So wastewater enters at the midpoint of this pump, gets discharged at the top. There's a series of impellers in the top end that we call the liquid end, and the motors on the bottom, which we call the motor end. Pretty simple. This is just a control panel that's normally mounted in fairly close proximity to the pump. So if the pump is away from the home, it's just post-mounted somewhere out in the property. More typical, it's on the side of the home, and you can, buffer it with vegetation or whatever you want to do so you don't see it. The connection to the pressure main is usually an 1.25 inch pipe. There is, you'll see here at the main, there's usually a shutoff valve and a check valve. The main itself is usually a 2-inch main. And there's also a check valve back at the pump to keep flow from coming back. So this is really a big plus with these systems is we're only laying 2-inch mains. 80% of the mains that we put in for these systems are going to be 2-inch until you get out to a trunk main. So it's all small diameter. You can use polyethylene, which you see here on the left. A lot of it can be directional bored, like you see here. It can be done with very, very small, very narrow trench, if you do direct bury. If you're not familiar with directional boring, this is basically it's a spoon-shaped head that's turning. If you lock it in one position, you can steer it left, right, up, or down. Drill through, usually about 400 feet at a time. You can pull the pipe back in place, so you can do long runs without having any trenches at all. When I was out driving yesterday, I noticed that they were putting in some gas main, and I just took a couple pictures because it did catch my attention. This is very typical of what you'll see with the step mains. These are 40-foot sticks of polyethylene pipe that get fused together. These ones are colored yellow. Step main would be the same thing, just colored green. And you can see they're actually installing it on the edge of the roadway here, so that's the limits of disturbance. That was a 4-inch gas main. Effluent sewers in the United States, the dots represent at least all the ones that we're aware of in the country. So you can see they're scattered all over the place. So this was one of the areas that we were asked to look at, and I just went out to get a good idea of what was common there. Typically smaller homes, around 1,000 square feet, I guess. Very narrow right-of-ways, and I think that was a theme of a lot of the areas I drove around, was the right-of-ways were pretty tight. Lots of vegetation, lots of large trees. So kind of took this as one area, and then I'm going to take another area because I wanted to kind of show the contrast and how much different it is a little bit as we look at different areas for effluent sewer. So if I took just a sample and I took a block of 2 or 3 streets just to kind of get an idea of what the costs look like, we were asked to use, for the pressure pipe, $50 a foot, which I did in this. I think it actually is probably closer to $30 or $35 a foot installed cost under a bid circumstance, but I used 50 in this to give an idea of cost. So in this little sample area, there was 48 homes. I'm considering here that there'd be a 4-inch trunk main running down the main street with 2-inch spurs coming off it. So I have 1,994 lineal feet of 2-inch, 593 lineal feet of 4-inch. Collection main cost was around $135,000. Services to the property, which would be from the main to the property line, we have $50,000. Cost per property for the collection line only was $3,850 plus or minus. The reason I like to do this is it's important that you understand how these costs break down. I've got here initial cost, and one of the things that's true about pressure systems and different than gravity is the initial cost for the collection system tends to be the lower cost. You're running small diameter pipe, it tends to be the lowest portion of the cost, whereas the on-site cost here is what we refer to as a deferred cost, meaning that cost doesn't become applicable to you actually connect a home. Okay, so when you start to think about a tool in the toolbox, so this is something to kind of grasp here, is that the initial cost, if the cost that you might be financing, can be reduced because the pressure mains are the lower part of that cost. For comparison, I went and looked at a different area here. You can see the street was winding, a little less right-of-way to work with. Homes were set back, a little bit larger. And this was very common in a lot of areas that I drove around outside of that one target area. For interest, again, I took a couple blocks, ended up being 3,000 feet, serving 30 homes. And it drove the cost per property up to about $6,000. This is one of the important things when you start thinking about pressure sewers is again, thinking about the fact that I can front property relatively cheap here. I think the frontage per property here was close to 200 feet. And it increased that cost per property, but not a whole lot. If you did that same thing, say with gravity sewer, that cost would go through the roof. So the takeaway point here is that it's very flexible. You can use pressure sewer to actually front low density, larger lots pretty effectively. And again, this on-site cost would be a deferred cost. You start talking about the on-site costs, it's going to range a lot, as you might expect. The cost of the tank and the pump itself is a fixed cost. We don't really care if the lot is 4 acres or if the lot is a half acre, a quarter acre. That tank is the same. Really, the biggest cost is going to be running from the tank out to the street. So if I have 30 feet to run, pretty simple. If we've got 250 feet, that will be the only cost increase. So I broke it into different categories here. So I have a small, clean lot, and that would be, I think, similar to the area that we're asked to look at. Probably about $7,000 to $9,000 per on-site system in an area like that. If you had a landscaped lot or a highly vegetated lot, which I didn't see a lot of in there, probably would bump those costs maybe $1,000 to deal with that. If you have large lots, large clean lot could be as high as 11 to 13, and if you're dealing with a lot of vegetation, could be as much as 15 or 17,000. And the truth is, that's the nature of the game for whatever you're connecting. If you were connecting anything, a gravity connection to this, I mean, the costs are going to go up relative to what type of lot you're dealing with. We get asked a lot if you can use the existing tank, because it makes sense. If the tank's adequately sized and it's in good shape, you can. I'm going to caution a little bit here, though, that you have to come up with a cost-effective way to evaluate those tanks and figure out which ones you can use. If you're going to spend $1,500 to evaluate the tanks, you're going to lose the benefit in a hurry. So I caution here that you can save $2,000 to $4,000, but that has to be based on a reasonable way to evaluate those tanks. So the attributes, this will finish it off. Some of the attributes of effluent sewer, generally no lift stations required, so we don't have any of these to worry about for the most part. Emergency storage in the tanks. Can target hotspots, and I'm going to revisit this a little bit. The reason I say it can target hotspots, if you think about a water main, if you're building a house and you need to come in and connect a home to a water main, they tap onto that main and they extend down the street. This behaves the same way. I can extend spurs off this line wherever I need to. So if I only want to serve properties within 1,000 feet of a waterway, I can do that cost effectively. There's really not an economy of scale saying I have to do one great big area. It follows the topography, easily expandable, especially cost effective for large lots. Trenchless construction is possible, easily installed in small phases. Easily expandable twice. Maintained with small equipment. So essentially these systems can be maintained with pickup trucks and a small set of tools. You don't need big vac trucks or anything like that. The only major piece of equipment is vacuuming or cleaning the tanks, and you can contract that out pretty easily. And wastewater receives low-cost primary treatment for nothing. So with that, flew through it pretty quickly, but again, 15 minutes.
That's great.
That's good.
That's good.
So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions or comments from the committee? Ron?
Yeah, I have a couple of, one thing, just one observation on that trench you saw with the gas pipe being put in.
Yes.
Well, wideband cabling is also going with it, so there's a shared cost with all of that.
Oh, well, okay.
So, in thinking about
Yeah, and
what
we,
we're
we've
doing, this could be something.
We've
that
tried to partner
factors-
the same way. I mean, we
Yeah.
think that the same possibility exists, that if there's a need for conduit, that we could be run with a pressure sewer pretty easily.
Okay. The same thing with this, I know this isn't the topic tonight, but if, just a ballpark figure, if we were to look at the Aranco system with the denitrifying component, what would the change in the on-site cost be like roughly? Is it?
The on-site system stays the same. So it doesn't matter if we're doing on-site or clustered or going to a centralized plant, that on-site stays the same.
Okay.
The treatment process, obviously we have to take into consideration what's being added as far as denitrifying. If we're going to a central plant, the one knock maybe on STEP is that you do need a carbon source for denitrifying. So there, you do have to add a little bit more of carbon source. Usually methanol is a common one. If you ask a lot of operators and you compare, the two, compare the fact that you've got, one of the things you get out of an effluent sewer is you get very consistent, equal strength wastewater, which actually makes it fairly easy to treat in a central plant. That's almost a bigger benefit than the fact you have to add a little more methanol to get your carbon source up. So you can run the economics and it makes sense to do so.
Okay, I think I'm not sure I got an answer there, but anyway, also you said it was a 115 volt pump, and it lasts a long time. What's the amp draw on it?
Typically, it draws around 12 maximum.
12
Yeah.
amps.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay.
Steve?
You emphasized the difference between your upfront and your deferred costs. But I'm not sure, is that, you're imagining a neighborhood that's being developed slowly over 5 or 10 years? What if the neighborhood's already developed?
Not really.
That's
The
irrelevant.
question I always ask, I understand usually if you have a septic abatement program, the driver is obviously to get rid of the septic systems. The other driver making everybody connect right away is usually the economics of it. And I'm going to kind of point the finger a little bit at a typical gravity sewer system. The reason you need to connect everybody right away is because of the economics of the system. You need everybody paying into it on the capital side right away, and you need everybody paying towards the maintenance of it right away. On this system, again, I look at it as a tool in a toolbox, is that if you want to defer some of those connections, the example might be if you made an allowance for septic systems that are less than 5 years old, you may want to defer those for 3 or 4 years if the economic model is favorable to do so. And you might get, you might get a big bang for the buck if 80% of the problem is being caused by 30% of the older septic systems, it might be something you can put in the puzzle and play with a little bit. So it's a tool.
They don't exist anymore.
Other comments or questions?
Just make sure I've got this. So basically, the solids tank is there, whether there's a 1,500 gallon tank in place, you put a new one in.
Right.
So every year or 2 years, just like you would with a good Title V system, you need to pump the solids out and take them someplace. So,
Yeah, not right.
10 years.
And I'll explain why it's a little different. Is
but
that
I
when
was,
you have-
but let me just finish, because
when you have a-
that would wind up being the
Yeah.
part of the carbon source at the treatment plant.
Sure. Well, yeah, and it can be, right. When you look at a septic system that's being, where it's being regulated by a health department, the problem is that you have to regulate the pump out cycle because you don't know if there's 2 people in the home or 10 people in the home. So they'll pick 5 years, 3 years, 6 years, depending on what works for them. When we start talking about effluent sewers, we're talking about a professionally maintained system. We're not suggesting that on-site system be maintained and operated by the homeowner. We're saying it should be in the hands of the utility. Part of that preventative maintenance cycle that we recommend every 3 years is that they come in there and measure that sludge and scum. And the reason being is that process actually becomes more efficient over time. And we're not, if you prematurely pump that, you're actually losing some of that efficiency. If you had 2 people in a home, you may not pump that tank for 20 or 25 or 30 years. And
Understood.
it's important to take advantage of
Just wanted
that.
to be sure that we all understood that
Yeah.
there was still a tank, there were solids need to come out of the tank at some point.
Right.
And go someplace.
And they can go, you're right, most of the time you'll design a septic hauling facility with part of the plant, and that is part of your common source.
And you threw out 12 amps for the things. You said they were high heads. What's a typical discharge head on these things? 20 feet, 30 feet?
No, 230 feet. So if you're familiar with pump curves, this is probably one of the best attributes of these systems. When you look at the pump, it starts at about 10 gallons a minute and basically goes vertical up to 230 feet. The advantage of that is you can use one pump throughout the system. And a shutoff head at 230 feet is one of the highest you're going to find, in pumps of this operating range. So if you're not familiar with head conditions, what that means is that if I put this pump on the ground and I extend a pipe up in the air, this pump has the capability to pump at 230 feet up before it stops. Yes.
The homeowner's gonna wanna know exactly what's gonna happen on his property. So he'll need an electrician for the electrical service for the pump.
Right.
His septic tank will normally come out.
It depends, again, it depends on the
you-
condition of the existing tanks.
Tank, okay.
Right, so normally what will happen is once they've applied for connection, most utilities will provide that panel to the homeowner, have an electrician mount it in a predetermined location and run a dedicated circuit to it. Once that's done, and there's different processes for doing the on-site work. Some will let the homeowners contract it, sometimes the utility will contract, sometimes the utilities do it. But that tank can be left in place if it's going to be used, and you can actually put that pump vault inside an existing tank or external to it. If the tank is in poor condition, then you pull the tank out and actually replace it in the same location with a new tank.
With a new tank, or with what we saw on here, the 1,500 gallon?
That's right.
Okay.
Board
All right.
Board of Health requires a 1,500 gallon tank.
And the program,
Minimum, okay,
For
50.
any new Title V system.
I see.
and the
It's a
program that I
minimum
oversaw, they
1,500
actually took those old tanks to a staging site and they broke them up and then reused them as aggregate afterwards.
Okay. And the leaching field is abandoned?
It is abandoned in place. yes.
Okay, and filled in if necessary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What's the average runtime for one of those pumps?
Typically around 30 minutes a day or less.
30
So if you're putting it in terms of power consumption, if you're looking around 12 cents per kilowatt hour, you're
Try
looking
20 cents.
20 cents. So you're probably looking at $20 electricity in a year to power that, pretty low.
What happens when the electricity goes out for a week?
If it was a week.
Like when Hurricane Bob came
Right.
through?
Well, for the first 4 days, again, you're gonna have about 200 gallons in that tank. So if you have a sustained power outage, you're not doing laundry, you're not doing some of the big water usages in most cases. 200 gallons is probably about a day's storage under normal situations. Could be up to 3 or 4 days if you have a reduced usage. And I'd hope most people through public education would know enough not to keep pouring stuff down their drains if there is a power outage. In areas that are prone to power outages, that panel comes with a generator receptacle on the side, and it can be powered up and pumped down with just an off-the-shelf generator. Now, the nice thing is, since we don't have any lift stations, every time if somebody's in that home after a power outage and they've chosen not to leave, if I hook a generator up to that thing and pump it down, it's pumping directly into the plant, so I don't have to worry about where it's ending up or if it's getting into a system that is, I need another generator at it. It takes it right to the plant for treatment. And in some cases, we've actually had homeowners that have just gone ahead and do that themselves. I mean, with public education as well.
Gary?
One question, what is the effluent characteristics of the nitrogen component of what's going into, of your effluent sewer?
Well, the nitrogen coming out of the effluent is going to be the same as normal wastewater.
Okay, so but it would probably be a
not-
higher concentration, less concentration?
It'll be about the same. There's not a whole lot happening in the wastewater stream that's changing the nitrogen.
Okay, and just in general, with all these systems, depending on the management system we put in place, the town could have a couple of people in a pickup truck going around with a small generator and pumping people out episodically or periodically. I'm not saying that's what we do, but that's generally what's considered a reasonable solution rather than buying 3,000 generators.
If you have to pump for half an hour, one truck could do, working around the clock, 48 houses with no travel.
We don't work around the clock, but I
I
understand
know,
what you're
so
saying.
that, I'm making it, if you only work 8 hours, you can only do 16 with no travel
You're
time.
gonna need a lot of trucks.
Right.
Sorry I brought it up.
And I'll tell you, I mean, we've had systems go through hurricanes. We had systems down in Katrina. And I was in Hurricane Charlie, so I got to experience it firsthand too. The reality of what happens there, most people actually left if they were out of power for more than that amount of time. So we were able to, I worked for the utility after Hurricane Charlie. We targeted homes that were without power and dealt with those individually. We found that most homeowners, if they were there that long, FEMA had already announced that they were paying for generators. People went out and bought generators. People had the ability to plug them in themselves if they were sustaining themselves. Because it's pretty easy. When you plug in a generator, it's not very common. You plug it in the side. There's an outlet right on the side of the box. You open it up. There's a switch that says generator, and you switch it. And that's all it is. And you can power up the panel. So it's not complicated. Some it's really easy to put in a mailer.
Is there a licensing fee or whatever associated with the system, and is it like a one-time fee that covers so many homes, or is it per home hooked up?
From Aranco? There's not a licensing, no. I mean, we generate our revenue from selling product. The only residual fee that we have, and it's usually not, large utilities don't usually use it. We do have a monitoring system that we can monitor every system and actually bring it back to our computers and then serve it back out to the operator over the web. And basically it will report alarms and any problems with that system back to the operator. We do charge $1 per month for that type of monitoring, but again, we don't usually recommend it for larger systems like this.
We have in town here, a kind of traditional wastewater treatment system plant and everything, which seems to be, would something like this plug into that, because your composition of your effluent or influent coming in is going to be quite different from what it's receiving now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real fallacy that you can't bring this. I mean, we hear words like toxic, and that's not true. We have a ton of these systems going into conventional plants. The biggest difference is it's going to be weaker strength, and it's going to be anaerobic. This wastewater converts back to an aerobic condition readily. You oxygenate it, it goes back to an aerobic condition real fast. In fact, if we were dumping into a gravity system, a lot of times we have a product called the Terrator where we'll actually convert it back into aerobic wastewater before we put it into a gravity system even. And because it's low organic content, it does it pretty quickly. So that's one of the biggest fallacies we hear, that you can't dump into a conventional plant. We do it all over the country.
Okay, other comments or questions from the committee? Thank you
Very
very
welcome.
much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have
Good evening. My name is Henry Albro. I work for F.R. Mahoney and Associates. We are the local representatives of Environment One Corporation. And with me is Bob Mall, who is the regional manager for Environment One from Niskayuna, New York. And we are the grinder pump part of your presentation tonight. And ours is set up as sort of a question and answer, commonly asked questions and answers. So hopefully we'll touch on some things that might be on your mind. F.R. Mahoney and Associates has been in business for about as long as Environment One has been around. Environment One was developed 1969, and we've been representing Environment One products in Massachusetts and the rest of New England for over 35 years. So to give you an idea what a pressure sewer is, you heard a lot about pumping sewers in the previous presentation, and this is very much similar. Small diameter pipeline follows the terrain, and what we do is we collect all of the waste from the home, put it into a pump chamber with a grinder pump. We grind the solids to a 1/4-inch particle size, and then we leave the home at 1.25-inch pipe size, and then gradually step up as the system gets larger as you tie in more homes. So like the step pump system, we start off with a very small lateral, again, 1.25 inches for us, and we are presently the most widely used and accepted alternative collection system available, and great flexibility. We can go into those narrow areas, narrow pockets. Our technology actually started when EPA was trying to extend the Clean Water Act funding, and they were looking for alternatives that could stretch those dollars that were tightening up at the time. And we started out with waterfront communities, lakes, areas with small lots. So the area that you're looking at for the little pond, we have the capability of pumping very high heads. Again, the high heads mean friction and elevation. Friction loss in a pipeline and the elevations that you have to overcome. You're a fairly flat terrain. You do have some hilly areas, but most of your head conditions will be friction pumping distances. And we can sewer your project and eliminate pumping stations. So you can do your entire project. You should not need a pumping station anywhere. Very easy to install, like the very nice pictures you saw in the previous presentation. Narrow trenches. We're buried below frost line. So the gas line is 30 inches deep. It's a little cleaner trench. These pipes do contain wastewater, and they are subject to frost, so they're going to have to be 4.5, 4 feet deep to meet your local frost conditions. And one difference with us is you don't need the septic tank in front. We take all the waste and we convey it to the treatment plant. So it eliminates that on-site maintenance component. So this is where we'd bear with us 1 second. And I apologize, yeah, you just got to put a mouse on that. And I apologize to the folks at home. Hopefully this is loud enough that, well, we're going to skip that, I guess. Let me go back. Okay. Just get the mouse to wake up, and there you go, and then press. This will just give you a little pictorial about how a gravity.
You want to bring the mic over there?
I hope that conveyed it home, but so what that was demonstrating is that we start off at the very lowest location, the furthest part away. It's like a tree, leaves on a tree coming back at the trunk. So we draw the wastewater from the homes that are the furthest away, and as the pipelines continue to the point of discharge, it gradually gets larger, and we use one pump to fit all applications. So we can fit so that they're all uniform, they're all the same pump throughout the system. So in this area here, we're just looking at very congested lots still. You have, very tight, everybody's closely tied together. And we would go down through that area with a very narrow trench, very narrow disruption, and we can service these areas very nicely and very easily, as opposed to the conventional, as everybody calls it, conventional gravity sewer. These methods are becoming more conventional every day.
We're also very easy to install with directional drilling. We find more and more projects now throughout the country being installed with directional drilling rather than open cut. Much less disruptive to an existing community such as yours.
So you can see the boring rig. This gives you kind of a side view of these drilling rods that are in the machine, and that is just connected, and they extend 20 and 30 feet at a time, and then they pull the pipe back through. Or you can do this type of open trench excavation on the side that you see here. And above where this red line is, this is a directionally drilled service lateral to a home. The home, you can barely see out of view, is in behind the trees. The contractor's truck is right there. He's in the backyard putting the grinder pump in. The pipe is already in. It goes under the trees, and it has not disrupted any of the lawn or the fence in that area. So the restoration is just off the edge of the road where they have to restore the disturbed areas. So if you've got areas that are difficult, you can trench the pipelines very easily, and it can follow up and down grades. It doesn't have to be sloped like a gravity sewer would. So gravity sewer that you're trying to avoid, I mean, this is the contrary system. You're going to have a deeper pipe, gravity pipe, large machinery in the road plates. So the benefit of these alternatives that you're looking at is that we eliminate those circumstances. Much easier for your residents to get around during construction. So, is this a new technology? One common question. People still haven't heard of this, and we've been around since 1965, and Environment One came up with this, we affectionately call the napkin sketch of the grinder pump with the motor, the pump suction, and originally it was intended to be a way to get rid of combined sewer problems. They were going to insert this little pipeline into your plumbing, take the place of replacing drainage and sewers that were combined and overflowing. Out of that, they found that inserting the pipe system didn't work very well, but the grinder pump had great promise, and today this is what the system looks like. It's evolved to a dry well access way with a submersible pump with a large inlet grinder at the bottom. All the wastewater enters into this lower basin and is ground and pumped through that 1.25-inch pipeline.
Our technology was originally developed to be a household appliance. We still consider it to be a household appliance. It happens that it's going to be handling the wastewater in the homes rather than washing clothes or keeping food cold or something like that. But this really is just another household appliance.
Is this in the basement or in the backyard or in the?
This would be out in the side yard, backyard. We have units that can go in the
Above
basement. This right here, you see that orange sticker?
Yeah.
That's all you see. We actually have a lid that we brought with us. You're going to see about 2 inches of this sticking out.
So it's underground?
It's
in the
buried
backyard.
underground, yes.
Okay.
And that depth is because, again, the New England frost conditions, that the collection area and the inlet and discharge pipes that come in midway are deep enough to be protected from frost.
That's typically what you're going to see exposed in the yard, is just that cover.
We have installations throughout Massachusetts, throughout New England. In our territory, Environment One is sold and installed in 37 countries. Right now, it may have grown.
You got Falmouth on that now?
Yes, we do.
They're in Falmouth.
Yes.
New Silver Beach, to be and I think Woods Hole.
Yes. The nice thing to note is this is our main office in Rockland, not that far away, and our service dispatch center in Southbridge. So we have support service nearby, and we are locally set up to provide service. And there's a slide that will show that in a minute.
And as you've seen, the product's manufactured in an Albany, New York suburb called Niskayuna. And it's where the company has been located since its inception in about 1969. And the product is all manufactured right there in Albany, New York.
So to your earlier question about what does it look like in the yard, we had to put arrows so that you could draw your eye to it. But this is an installation in Laconia, New Hampshire, a very nice home that looks out over the Mount Washington ferry boat that comes in. This is in Norton, Mass, Arrowhead Village, nice neighborhood with on-site decentralized treatment. And this is, I think, was taken in Cohasset area. And that's what you'll see typically for the cover. And that could have just as easily been in the mulch bed, just a little bit better placement without any problem. Underground, what you'll see is we start with this main collection pipe and then a service lateral at the street with a curb box. There's a check valve built in at this point. Then within the pump, there's a check valve as well, so you have redundancy, just like in the septic tank pump, the same redundancies. And if you have a gravity sewer that drains from the home into the unit, there's an electrical connection to an alarm panel. We brought an alarm panel, it's on the floor over here, we can show you. We tie into the main house. We like to use a 240 volt service. You get a little bit lower amp draw, typically around 7 amps maximum. So it's, and again, the equivalent to power use, a 40-watt light bulb equivalent. And we have a slide that will show that.
What's the vertical dimension of what we're looking at here?
This here, standard for New England, is about 93 inches tall. And we might be able to get away with a little bit shorter because your frost penetration may not be as deep. But our standard is around 93 inches to give us 46 inches of cover over the discharge. And then that can be brought down. We have installations in Maine that are 7 feet deep.
It's very easy for us to adjust the height of that station. We can do it in about 3-inch increments. And in fact, that can actually be adjusted out in the field as well. If you know, they are working at a particular home installing a unit and find that they hit ledge and they need to shorten the station, that can be done right on site.
You will not strike much ledge.
No.
But you might hit a boulder.
That would be rare.
No ledge here.
Can you put it downstream of an existing septic tank so you have the safety factor that the previous speaker talked about?
You can. We've had details where you can use it as a offline storage, but we want to take the waste into the unit, grind it. So there may be locations where you might be able to use that tank for offline storage, but you'd want to evaluate the tank integrity.
So then you propose not having a safety factor, there's no storage, in
Typically,
case of a
No.
power outage.
right, typically that's avoided.
Yeah.
There's
So
things that
what
can be
happens
done.
when you have a week's no power?
Well, we have a generator connection capability with a plug with an automatic transfer. You basically plug in the generator and it switches over automatically internal in the panel.
But you can't go around with a truck. It has to
In
be on
Marion,
demand.
Mass, we put in 425 pumps, three areas. They have 3 generators. During the last hurricane that came through, Irene came through there, and they were pumping the tanks down in about 3 to 5 minutes. It's a smaller volume. Our normal run cycle is less than a minute. So when the pump comes on, it's drawing down typically less than a minute unless somebody's draining a bathtub or doing something large. It might extend it for a couple of minutes.
When you say the tank, you mean the tank that's integral with the pump here?
Yes,
What's the size of
this
that?
tank in here, we have tanks that start at 70 gallons and we can put in larger. But we find that during most outages, as mentioned before, water use drops dramatically. Most households use about 150 to 200 gallons a day under normal conditions. But today with dishwashers, laundry, all of those items would be rendered useless during a power failure. So the water use drops dramatically, and we really don't find this to be as big a concern unless it extends into a very long period of time.
We have lots of different basins available. The product that we lead with is the one that we have here. That's about a 70-gallon wet well. And typically, we want to get that wastewater from that home and to the treatment plant as quickly as possible. And we have basins that we could provide up to maybe 200 or 300 gallons of storage on site if we needed to.
Yeah, we've got a picture of some different ones.
You know,
But your pump is more efficient if you have the right volume around it. You don't want the solids to be gathered and settling in your
Correct.
tank. You want the
That's correct.
solids to come in, get to the pump, get chewed up, and get into the small pump.
That's
We want to get, that's correct. We want to get that wastewater off of that private property
process.
and get it down to the treatment plant where it can be dealt
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Yeah, we want to keep very little on site for the off chance that there's going to be a storm to knock out the power.
So the appliance comment that Bob had mentioned earlier is that this system really does not require periodic maintenance. There's no pump out or cleaning to do. Typically with these are, once they're installed, they're in use. The normal mean time between service calls, and that's not end of use or failure, that is a routine service that might occur, we say about a 10% frequency or 8 to 10 years. And we have systems that are 30 plus years and still going. And what would happen, worst case, is that pump core in the middle, that's in the basin, might have to be replaced at the end of that 25 or 30 year life.
Oh, sorry, I just have a couple of questions. One is, you mentioned that there's no need for pumping stations.
Right.
Correct.
So it can go from the house 6 miles to the treatment plant with
Absolutely.
this,
Yes.
with this system?
Yes.
Whatever it is.
It's driven by the terrain and the distance, but in your case, we've actually looked at sizing these systems about 10 years ago when you first started looking at this.
Well, the treatment plant is at the highest point in town.
Right.
Remember, folks, we're going to go into an intermediate collection system and interceptor sewer. Not that during the next phase, we wouldn't consider something like that, but I think right now the consideration is this is a collection system that's going to go into a transport system that's already there, to a pump station that's already there.
Right.
But-
I think what's bothering Ron, and I get the same thing, is a lot of these places we're talking about are below the level of that, of where you're talking about, where it would connect. So if they're below it now.
How does it get
How
pushed
does it get pushed up?
uphill?
This is,
The pump does
the
that.
pump does
I
that.
have a system I live in the Finger Lakes in New York State, and they're all very long, narrow lakes. We have a system over there in the town of Jerusalem, which is on the west side of one of the branches of the lakes. And that system is just a little short of 6 miles long, so let's call it 5.5 miles. There are 300 grinder pumps down the side of that lake, servicing those homes. It pumps from south to north, and the pump at the southernmost end could pump the wastewater all the way to the treatment plant in Penn Yan.
So it's through,
We,
it comes together in a common pipe though, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah,
somehow
that's
it's pushed through that pipe, then
that's right.
everything is pushed.
It's
to
like a
that.
straw in a glass,
Right,
everything
right.
comes from that bottom of that straw, and
Yeah.
we're just pushing it up instead of drawing it up.
Now, one other thing is that we have, I mean, the neighborhoods that we have like 5,000 square foot lots, or probably
Right.
6,000 square feet. Is it possible to use one of these maybe for 4 houses? Where they would be they're so dense that you could just plug into one?
I have lots of communities in upstate New York, and as well as the state of Maryland, where they share services. So yeah, that can absolutely be done. The village of Springport, again along the Finger Lakes, has shared services. Right now, they're putting shared services in Fairhaven, which is on the South Shore of Lake Ontario. So yeah, we've done that a number of times. There's advantages and disadvantages to that, and we can, as we progress, we can explain some of those, but.
We have that in New Silver Beach. There's 4 or 5 houses on 2 separate streets, and we have one E1 system that collects from those 4 houses. Then it pumps up to, I think it's a gravity system that it goes in. Yeah, it is a gravity system, because, so we have that right here.
So that's certainly a viable option.
What the homeowner is going to see will be just a alarm panel that has a visual light, it has a buzzer, and we can also tie this in. We have a system that we can link through satellite telemetry. We can actually monitor the pumps during, for alarm. We can monitor for extended run, so we can predict if there's an issue with the pump. And we can also monitor after a power failure to see if there are pumps that have failed to come back onto service. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we can offer with the panels on these now.
Red light, a buzzer on the bottom. I call it a very annoying buzzer, and it's also got a silence button. The homeowner can defeat the buzzer, but the light's going to remain lit until the issue is resolved. And on the side of this panel, we actually have our generator receptacle. You can plug into that. And as Henry indicated, there's no need for anybody to open the panel and operate anything. It'll automatically switch over to generator power, and then when the generator's unplugged, it automatically goes back to line power, so that nobody has to remember to rotate that switch back. So they can move around that project fairly quickly if need be, plugging in, pumping down if needed. Sometimes they'll plug in and they don't need to.
So what's the failure rate? I mean, you've got all these safety things. How often, like?
Our mean time to the first service call is 8 to 10 years.
I mean, how often do they fail? That you have to that something has to be done? I mean, are these?
On an average, 8 to 10 years.
Right, but you have all these alarms and things that go off if something
Right.
goes wrong.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an idea.
Oh,
Like, so if you had 1,000 systems, every day one would go off, or?
No, but if you had 1,000 pumps in a year, I'd expect 100 red lights.
100 lights in a year?
10% in a year.
10%, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, now, 1 week you may get
It'll wait
3.
for 10 years.
And I think the most common mode of failure, if I understand these things, is the kid puts the plastic army man into the toilet, and it's the right size to jam the pump, right? I'm doing that as a facetious way. But if people are using their systems and their dishwashers and their washing machines the way they're supposed to use them,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be a problem pushing anything
Right.
through this, right?
Correct, that's
I
correct.
mean, the analogy here is if you had a garbage disposal in your house, how often does your garbage disposal jam on you? You know, you put the wrong peach pit down there.
You're not supposed to have them in the house.
Oh, very good.
I used to live up in the city. I used to live up in the city. I used to live up in the city.
I have a question. Did you
We
guys?
have a slide that addresses what we have been tested to grind, so your question, sir.
Yeah,
Did you? Is this the kind of system that went in Provincetown?
no,
No. What's the difference?
And that's a vacuum.
that was a vacuum system.
They're
Vacuum
nice.
system.
He's on next.
Disagreeing about that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're coming in
Yeah.
5 minutes.
One of the things we'll stress is that our local service, you can see these fine gentlemen, they're supported by a network of inside sales and support people. These are our local service personnel, and we have a population in New England well over 30,000 pumps. And this is our service staff right here that handles it all. So if these were problematic, there would be a whole chorus of people
Three
behind them.
rows of them.
Yes,
Do they
yes.
sleep? Do they
So-
sleep?
No.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Looks like they eat pretty well.
Yes. In the life cycle, the ownership cost, this is a good example, and we have many of these examples, but this is one that we picked because it's fairly close to home in Pennsylvania, and the community actually does the maintenance. So these can be maintained by the homeowners through us, or they can be maintained by you through the town, or a combination thereof. So you have flexibility in how these are maintained. We have service contracts with municipalities, or like this one, and basically what they've done is they've tracked the actual ownership costs and repairs, because the fear is an electromechanical device, it's going to break and it's going to cost lots of money. The average ownership cost here is around $46 a year, and you know, it's cheaper than getting your furnace cleaned.
Are these also the pumps that some people need when their standard Title V septic tank is above some toilet in their basement or something like that?
We've served in that purpose where we've pumped, we have indoor units, and there are other products that do the same thing, where you might have just a bathroom that would lift up. There are small ejector pumps that use little centrifugal pumps, so there's a variation of ways of doing that.
Because this technology is so widely accepted, there's lots of people out in the industry that make grinder pumps. Almost any major pump manufacturer in the United States builds a grinder pump. We're best known for pressure sewers because this is the only product that we manufacture. Unlike maybe a Gould's that you're familiar with, or a Myers, or some of those names that you know from well pumps and so on. They make a broad range of product. This is the only thing that we do. Our focus on this product is laser. So, yeah, lots of people make grinder pumps, and they get applied to all kinds of different things, little upflush toilets and so on.
So if you take this kilowatt rate and double it, you're looking at about, what, 260, 360 per month? This would be your local cost. We use the 11 cent a kilowatt hour. That's an old reference. I guess we could have done 10 and then multiplied, but
I pay 6.
yeah, I want your bill. But basically, less than a television, a little bit more than a coffee maker when you kind of put it in the overall scheme of things. The pump does require electricity. We've talked about the concerns about power failures and so forth. During an outage, we mentioned that the homeowner drops the use quite a bit, and in most cases, they don't even know that they have a problem with their grinder pump. And we have a battery-operated redundant alarm system that's available. We use it on all our indoor units, and it's available to warn inhabitants of a problem even during a power failure. Does not emit unpleasant odors. This is a location that Bob took a picture of, just to kind of assure you. And that's what the cover would look like.
I had some people, no one there. One cold February day, we had a group touring the factory, and they wanted to see some pumps installed. We have a local installation. We were driving around. It was too cold to get out of the car, but I took that picture out the window.
Now, we pride ourselves a lot on third-party listings. You know, these are appliances to be used in the home, so we have worked very hard to get certification of all of these fine organizations, and that should give you a little bit of a comfort level about the product. These are the types of things that we had to do to meet the NSF certification. And in there, we did have the plastic utensil, the HDPE bottle cap.
Toy soldier.
I didn't see Matchbox metal toy car. Okay, so we had to take and grind these objects, and we do it very slowly. We are garbage disposal hung upside down, and we digest things, we chew away at them very slowly. We take a little bit, next pump cycle we take a little bit more. So it's not all like exciting to watch, but at the end of the day, we grind it and pass it through the pipeline.
This is the protocol that we are required to pass in order to get the NSF label, which is on the slide before this. UL tests our product for safety, and they give you some level of assurance that besides the manufacturer and their representative, a third party has looked at this product and said, yeah, it's safe to put on private residential property. NSF checks for functionality, so
Standard,
we're getting
yep.
the
Okay, Ron?
No, I have a question.
Standard 2-year warranty, typically 27 months from date of shipment. So with a large project, you might get truckloads of pumps delivered on site, and they would get installed over a period of time. We were in Mattapoisett this afternoon, and they took 50 pumps. They were getting them ready to install, and they're going to start installing them next week. So that allows for that overlap. And then we have communities who have done longer warranty periods in their bid purchase with us.
The warranty is our warranty. We don't pass it through. Your automobile, you know, you got to deal with Firestone on the tires, for example. We build this entire product, so everything is covered under our warranty. It's on-site parts and labor.
So the pump that we had talked about, basically the single-family home unit, we have an indoor unit, and then we have larger basins. This is a quadruplex unit that could service those cluster areas, for example, that you asked about. That's capable of handling up to about 9,000 gallons a day. So we can mix and match product, all the same pump, all the same curve, different basin, different configuration to meet your needs.
Oh, wait, 9,000 gallons is about, that's 40 homes or something, or?
Well, if you're designing based on Title V, you know, 330 gallons a day per household, 3-bedroom or 440, you know. So we could easily take care of it.
We don't design collection systems on Title V.
So,
Fair enough.
Okay, any further questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Here comes the next.
this goes forward, back, and that's ready.
Good evening, my name is Jim Doherty here from Airvac. I'd like to thank you for letting me speak to you tonight. I think we should just get right into these slides because there's a lot of them. This is the area that we were asked to do a cost estimate on. At least that's our interpretation. These are the kind of numbers we came up with in our budgetary estimate. We have this broken up into basically two what we call vacuum systems, because to handle this area we would use 2 vacuum stations. And I'm going to explain what vacuum stations are, maybe as some of you know and maybe some of you don't. These are the connections we counted up, and these are the average daily flows that we used. Hopefully they're close to what you guys are looking at. And a peak flow is always used for sewer design that's a momentary flow as opposed to a daily flow. That really decides our pipe diameters in the ground. Okay.
Free.
Station 1 plus the line work, we come up with $3.87 million. This is all in a lot of detail in the paper handout I gave to you, so you really don't need to write this down.
Paper handout.
This one looks like this.
Yeah, there's lots of pages there, and we went through, and as we
yes.
always do in a budgetary estimate, we do a fairly detailed list of lines, line sizes, cost per foot, and cost for components installed. I would like to talk to you a little bit about the history of vacuum sewers, why you should consider vacuum sewers. I'm going to tell you how they work. I'm going to tell you about cost considerations. I'm going to show you some construction photos. I'm going to answer the question, why are vacuum sewers used so often in coastal applications? I've got some frequently asked questions, if you guys don't. And I got some frequently asked questions in Massachusetts, which you probably have for me. Brief history, kind of like E1, we were a little later. I think our first system is 1972. Putting in about 2 systems a year in the 70s. In the 80s, our company and grinder pump companies were given a boost by alternative sewer programs, helped us get our momentum going, so to speak. That dried up in the 80s. So we went from 2 systems a year in the 70s to about 4 systems in the United States in the 80s, up to about 9 in the 90s. In the last decade, we are doing about 15 systems a year. We do have some projects that serve over 5,000 connections using multiple vacuum stations. So we've got over 300 U.S. installations in 29 states and an additional 1,000 installations worldwide. Why consider vacuum sewers? Kind of the same as what these other folks have been talking about. You're lowering construction costs primarily by reducing trench depth, eliminating manholes, you're eliminating lift stations, and a side benefit, particularly to the guy who's working in a 5-foot hole as opposed to a 20-foot hole, you've got some safety concerns that you're going to avoid with shallow trenching. Less maintenance than other alternative sewer systems, particularly after the system ages. We got no electrical components in the ground. We got no cutters, wires, or panels in the ground. Nobody needs to upgrade their electrical service at their house. No electricians, except at our vacuum station. Number 3, our system operates during a power outage because we always have a standby generator at the vacuum station. Vacuum sewers handle flow changes. I'm talking about seasonal flow changes from summer to winter as people leave your area. Vacuum sewers do not operate with a full pipeline like pumping systems do. They don't have the long retention time that pumping systems do because air is the motivator. It's the force that pushes the sewage through the system. We got lower energy consumption than pumping systems. And we got a very nice and easy method to locate, and if you folks are willing to go through it, eliminate I&I, which is a big topic these days. There is never exfiltration or leaking out of the vacuum sewer system. How does it work? You got 3 major system components of the vacuum sewer system. You got the valve pits, which is kind of like the grinder pump sump, similar looking. You've got the vacuum mains, and you got the vacuum station. Schematically, it looks like this. You basically have, number 1, a valve pit package, which is the interface between the house, and in most cases 2 homes, and the vacuum mains, which are always under vacuum. You got the vacuum mains themselves, which run to a vacuum tank located inside a vacuum station. From that tank, the wastewater is pumped via force main to either an existing gravity main or directly to the wastewater treatment plant. You have isolation valves along the system to help you troubleshoot and detect for leaks. So in a little bit of detail, the house connection, there's a picture of it, is a PE H20 rated sump with a valve on top of it. The lower chamber is the sewage sump. The upper chamber is sealed from the sump. The 3-inch vacuum valve pictured there, and Jerry just grabbed it there. It's something that a municipal operator can pick up. One hand. And typically speaking, this is attached into the valve pit. And so the service for this unit is done mainly with the controller. And so what the operator will do is he'll have a spare controller with him if he's having trouble with this controller, and he'll change it out. And of course, there are going to be tubing connections that he's going to have to move. But that's basically the vacuum valve maintenance.
That's wired to the house?
There's no wire.
No wire.
No wire. Let me go to the next slide. We'll get to how it
Okay,
works, how it's powered up. All right, valve pit operation. Sewage fills the sump in the bottom. You can see the valve is here. As the sump fills, air that is trapped in that sensor pipe puts a pressure by a tubing which is connected to this diaphragm here. And that diaphragm opens, and it opens internal valving in this controller, and that allows a passage from a tube which is connected here, which is always under vacuum, to come to the back of this valve. And that's the power that pulls on the back of this diaphragm, which pulls this valve open. And then this controller does what we call breathing. It's under vacuum, so it has another atmospheric line, and air comes into this controller, and when it comes back to atmospheric pressure, this valve closes. So all this valve does in his life is open and close.
What's the vertical dimension of what we're looking at here?
That's variable because different applications, for example, a no basement application will use a shallower valve pit than a deeper
Okay.
with a basement.
What would be the minimum?
5.5 feet.
5.5 feet.
But you need to get by gravity from the house to
Absolutely.
that pit.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, okay.
okay? Which other people had to do the same sort of thing,
Key point.
but
Yeah, they're all the same. We're all the same.
they're
in
all
that
the same thing. They
respect.
need to get it someplace to start the whole
I'm
operation.
talking out of my head here. Yeah, it's a gravity feed from the house to
To that,
Okay.
to the pump,
anything.
Okay.
the valve.
So I just mentioned what happens on these two slides. Differential pressure propels the sewage towards the vacuum station. Valve pit access. Pull that cast iron cover off, and this is what you're seeing, which is basically what I'm holding here.
Would this be in the town right of way, or would it be on the property?
You have choices. We always recommend in the right of way.
In the right of way.
The reason we do that, and I got slides on this, these are municipally maintained only. There's no homeowner maintenance of a vacuum sewer system.
Okay.
So municipalities prefer to have it in the right of way so that they're not going on private property. And that's another reason why we make them deeper, because as you run away from a house, you got to get deeper and deeper.
Right.
Lo and behold, there's a slide with valve pit depths on it. All right, the second item of the three is vacuum mains. Lifts are used to keep the pipe shallow in a vacuum sewer system. That's a lift right there. It's 245s put together to make an elevation step change. There's one in the ground. And there's a typical, what we call sawtooth pipe profile that's used for a vacuum sewer system. Uphill transport. So we're using DR21 pipe, schedule 40 PVC typically.
What's the diameter?
It starts, the main start at 4,
4 inches.
and they go 6, 8, and 10.
And 4 is the minimum. I
Right.
drove around with him earlier.
4 is the minimum.
Yeah. The house connection from the valve pit to the main is 3. But who cares? And we use a special reverse style gasket. We have found over the years that this gives contractors less trouble getting their pipe to pass leak tests. It's a superior setup and arrangement for a gasket.
So you're getting all liquid, solids, toy soldiers, everything is going through this pipe.
Yeah. For better or for worse. Stones too.
Okay.
Golf balls.
Well, okay, there's some size limitation here.
Well, that's a good question. This is a full 3-inch opening. The oldest toilets in the United States are 3-inch. So anything that's going to get down a fairly slow-moving toilet is going to get through here at 15 feet a second. Okay. Now, will I say nothing ever gets caught in here? No, I won't say that. But it's rare. And I will tell you the most common maintenance item in the vacuum sewer system is condensation buildup in the controller. We're not going to tell you that it doesn't happen. It happens. That's the most common service call you're going to get.
And how will the homeowner know there's a problem?
It's not the homeowner.
Well,
It's in his house, he's gonna have a problem.
now there's going to be an alarm at the station. No, the vacuum valve will fail open under that circumstance.
So just pull everything out of the house.
No, there's a vent that pulls air in from outside. You would suck the traps dry if you didn't have a separate, what we call candy cane. So yeah, there's always a separate.
That's the existing vent in the house.
No, as I say, you would, if you tried to use the existing vent, you would suck the traps dry on your plumbing. We have a separate vent that attaches to the gravity line that runs to the valve pit.
So that is a change that the homeowner would see on his property.
He would.
He would abandon his septic tank and his leaching field, but there would be a candy cane, which is the
That's
vent
right.
piece.
And usually when you drive around an area that has a vacuum sewer, it's hard to find them because they'll put them behind bushes and things like that.
How large is it?
4-inch,
4-inch stands up 2 feet?
it has to stand up above the floodplain, whatever the floodplain is.
Snow or
Probably
flood.
snow.
Above the floodplain?
Above the floodplain?
So, because here it's
Yeah.
11 feet.
Well,
Okay.
we've had them that high.
I see.
Well, you won't in this
Okay.
town.
All right.
A ping pong ball, I mean, that kind of thing.
What
Yeah, but
happened
your
in
street levels are
Barnstable?
about 10.
I've got 6 slides on that. I'd like to put that off to the end, if I can.
Fine, keep going.
All right, let's talk about the vacuum station. That's the third of the 3 components.
Could I just back up one to be fair? And I'll use my own house. My first floor is at 12 feet. That's the floodplain elevation. I'm no more than 12 inches above the street level. I don't have a cellar. So when you say 11 feet, you'll find that most of the houses without basements are pretty close to the newer houses to the floodplain, at least in my experience. In the Heights, I'm in a floodplain, elevation's 12 feet. My first floor elevation is 12 feet, and I'm about a foot above the street.
Yeah, if you've got 11 feet of water above the ground, you guys are, you're not going to be worried about your sewer.
I'd go back to the other guys and say, if we're down in areas where homes are in a V zone or whatever, you wouldn't mount the electric controller so that it gets hit by the waves. You mount it up higher.
Well,
Yeah.
just remember the map that Nate handed out when he showed us
The V zones and the
the V
floods.
zone for when we were looking at just
Right.
the sewer design that the GHD did. That was a huge swath of red.
Want to define V-zone, so?
Okay, so it's just an issue
Yeah.
we'll have to look at carefully. That's
V-
all I'm
V-
saying. This is not trivial.
Yeah, just for the people listening at home or in the audience here, the FEMA flood maps that talk about everything going on, there's a thing called the velocity zone, which is the area that a wave will run up under certain type of storm events, and it defines the maximum sort of run-up height that you have to protect everything against.
Okay, actually, I've got slides further on. Vacuum sewers are an excellent solution for flood-prone areas. We have a vacuum sewer system in Tunica, Mississippi, where it floods regularly 10 feet every year.
Must be some good soil down there.
Houses are on stilts, it's more or less a but it does. And they got no wake zones up in the trees, you know, for fun, you know, and all that. But the point being is, yes, in those instances, those candy canes are strapped to telephone poles. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But the system
Just
does
to-
not go under in a flood.
We have a couple of pump stations that are already in V zones, and they have telephone poles nearby that have vet pipes coming up that get above the V zone. So
Yeah.
we got a little familiarity with that concept.
Okay. All right, anyway, here's a vacuum station. What you have is a tank, sewage pumps, vacuum pumps, control panel. You got an emergency generator, so if you lose power, you still have sewer. Be sure to locate that emergency generator up high enough. And you got a biofilter. The biofilter is basically mulch that takes the exhaust of the vacuum pumps, which has odor, and it clears up that odor. So vacuum station buildings can look as good or as bad as you want them to.
What's the radius that a typical station serves?
Typically, you can go 10,000 feet in any direction.
Come on.
Okay, cost considerations. Vacuum,
Yeah, people are just sort of in.
2
You
miles.
need to reiterate that. If you have a vacuum lift station, there's a couple of topography items here, but I think we're all in range for everything you're looking at here.
yeah, we looked at
You
it.
could extend a vacuum lateral out roughly 10,000 feet in
Roughly.
any direction.
It's a rule of thumb.
2 miles. Most of the peninsulas, they might need 2 vacuums per place.
And that's why, for a system like this, you know, we are benefited if we can locate it in the middle.
Sure. And just to help everybody out here, the more that you're pulling into the station, the bigger volume of air you're moving through that whole lift thing, the biofilter that knocks the odor down, the footprint of that is a function of how much air you're moving. So the balance ultimately gets to how do you fit everything, how do you find a piece of land and fit it all together. Okay?
Well, yeah, you do not have to use that kind of biofilter.
But there's a little bit of land involved with this lift station, so you have to find a site and some space.
There's canister type.
Yeah, not
filters
impossible,
you can
just,
use.
yeah.
All right. The vacuum station is relatively expensive, more than a gravity lift station. Typical residential areas like Falmouth share 2 homes per valve pit. Therefore, the larger the number of homes that are connected to a single vacuum station, the lower the cost per home. Make sense? Falmouth has a large number of homes connected to each vacuum station, which brings the cost per home down.
Okay.
All right, some construction photos. We like to see construction off the street where possible. I think this is common to everyone here. Sometimes it's not possible, though. Sometimes you have too many things close to the street and you're worrying about disturbing them. Here's an example where trenching was done along one side of the street. Construction in the winter, no problem. Smaller trenching is lower repaving cost.
How deep down do the pipes have to be?
Well, they're going to be, frost line is going to be your minimum depth. I think we're all talking the same thing here. And then we're going to go probably 2, 3, 4 more feet. Depends on the individual layout. I mean, there's rules of thumb for that question are dangerous, but because that's totally topography dependent for us. Here's a valve pit installation photo. Kind of like E1's picture there. So why are vacuum sewers used so often in coastal applications? Flat terrain, high groundwater, valve not affected by sand, best system for flooding, best alternative system for seasonal flow variations. So here's some frequently asked questions, unless you guys want to go first.
Could we ask why you think it's the best one for seasonal applications? To go back.
Yes, because we're not operating with a full pipeline. Our liquid is traveling with air. So our system does not go septic when we have a lot of people away on vacation, because you're still getting air coming through the system, even at low usage, because it's still high velocity. We're not running dead into a pipe, flat into a pipe where the liquid stops and then waits till something to happen and then moves as a pump starts somewhere. That's not the way the system works. This sewage kind of leapfrogs its way to the vacuum station. It doesn't make it all the way when one valve opens. It'll come to rest at the bottom of one of those lifts, and then another valve will fire, and it'll bring that air and liquid will pick up the existing liquid and piggyback its way towards the vacuum station. So air is always mixing with sewage in this system.
And so if we have a small population or a large population, it's incidental.
It's still going to get mixing with air and sewage. Now, you could argue that overnight, I mean, it'll come to, there's a quantity of sewage that will come to rest in our vacuum tank and our vacuum station. And so, yeah, there's going to be a little more septicity at night. But in generally speaking, this is not, the quality of the sewage is not affected by the number of people that are in a neighborhood. And you can air flush these lines. If you find that to be a problem, you can go to the last valve pit and open it.
You spoke about having 2 vacuum stations for the Mar Vista area. How many do you have in Provincetown?
1.
Just one.
On your previous slide, you said not affected adversely by sand, as opposed to...
You're gonna get sand everywhere here, right?
coming off of people in their outdoor shower or something like that.
You're on the coast, you're on the sand.
Outdoor showers.
As opposed to the
Yeah,
pipes
we
being
don't have any of those either.
No,
We don't even have no showers either.
And are you saying with the grinder pumps that there would be a problem with the sand?
I'll let them answer this.
Okay, fine.
Frequently asked questions, who maintains the valve pit? This is kind of important.
Valve god.
Did I spell it wrong?
No.
Oh, okay.
Steve his retirement job.
100% maintained by the municipality or a maintenance
That's you, Jerry.
group. Not by the homeowners appointing making. A free training is available every month at the Airvac factory for everybody who owns a vacuum sewer system.
Whoa, the homeowners?
No.
Okay,
The
okay. Just
municipality.
You, Jerry, okay.
If you hire a new guy, hire a new guy,
Person.
Yo, where's the factory, France?
Person.
if you hire a new employee, you can send them to
Okay,
Indiana and it's free.
okay.
Alternative to that, there are Airvac operated sewer systems. A little note on that, I've been thinking about that a little bit, and Sarasota, obviously there's so many connections, it's not hard to justify a sewer worker. But these other, Indiana references, they're maintained by an Airvac employee who has other things to do with Airvac, and he's running, his biggest time involvement is driving from one system to the next. So it wouldn't be a full-time person if this isn't big enough. So, the person would have to have other things to do, or it'd have to be part-time. We've also initially operated vacuum systems, Stock Island, Martin County, Adams Lake, again, they're down in Florida, Lower Alwa for 1 month. Alloway, New Jersey, kind of interesting. The engineer supplied a part-time operator for 2 years. It's just the way they wanted it, so that's what happened. How many homes can be connected to a vacuum valve? Up to 4 homes may be connected to a valve pit. However, due to trenching costs and distances, typically 2 homes are connected to a valve pit. And the reason is if you try to have one valve pit serving 4 homes, usually to run trenches from homes, 4 different ones, the cost of running that trench is more expensive than buying a second valve pit. So when we do an estimate for an area like this, we use our national average, which is 2. And
Okay.
you're going to have homes that have to have their own valve pit because they're on the end of the street.
Good enough
Okay,
for now.
We got that, yeah.
All right. Is noise a problem around a vacuum station? No, that back building is a vacuum station and no complaints. Is odor a problem around the vacuum station? We just talked about. That's a biofilter. Mulch, that's it.
Well, you're showing us you have mulch. How about, is there an odor problem?
No,
No, the neighbors will say there is no odor problem.
absolutely.
The close
We could
neighbors.
go visit them. I mean, it's easy enough. It's easy enough to do, right?
Okay.
They're not far from here.
How often does the mulch have to be replaced?
I don't know, because every time I ask, people say we never replaced it, so I don't know.
Okay.
Would it be toxic from the fumes coming out?
No.
No?
No.
No.
It's just producing hydrogen, that's all that is.
Just don't light a match.
No, you can light a match.
Is there any rule of thumb as to how much cost can be saved using a vacuum sewer system? No, there is not, because for the cost of gravity, pressure, and vacuum is affected by terrain, slope, paving, foliage, distance between the homes, local labor costs, etc. So a budgetary cost estimate for all systems should be compared for each system. What is the power consumption? We figure $2 a month per home. How much does it cost to rebuild a vacuum valve? These are list prices. Valve rebuild kit, $35. The controller rebuild kit, $33. Is flooding an issue? Vacuum sewer is the best alternative for flood-prone areas because the sewer pipe is tight, therefore no manholes, no electrical connections at the home. In severe cases, Teaticket, Mississippi, ship stores were used at the vacuum station to keep the equipment dry. Salmon Beach, Tacoma, Washington, has vacuum mains that are underwater during high tide.
Huh.
So they don't leak. All system operators that we contacted during Oak Island, North Carolina, and so forth after the hurricane reported minimal or no problems. The people that did report problems said it was the location of their generator that was the problem. It should have been up higher. Frequently asked question here, I'm finally getting to your questions. So what happened in P-Town? Okay, after the equipment was installed, most of the sewer system went installed, you had some onesie-twosies additions later. So a valve pit was installed incorrectly, unsupervised, after the primary sewer went in. Now, the pit imploded, which means, by definition, it was installed incorrectly, because what happened was a vacuum was applied to the pit without the candy cane being connected. So it pulled it in. Funny for you, but not for us. All right. So, this is the only time in over 55,000 sump installs that the sump imploded but did not completely shatter. Normally what happens when a contractor implodes the sump, we get a phone call and he says, what the heck happened here? And we say, did you read the directions? And he said, what directions? But it happened there. But it didn't become destroyed. It still stayed there. So by definition, the standard sump leak test was not performed, because had it been performed, it would have failed. So on the 4th of July, a rock was pulled into the sump was pulled into the system and struck the vacuum main at the next lift. Because of the 4th of July parade, the operator was not able to isolate the leak because cars were parked on top of the isolation valves. Because the streets were blocked, the operator was not able to get to the vacuum station either and isolate that main, which he could have done if he were able to get there. But he wasn't because it was the 4th of July parade. So the vacuum deteriorated and the system stopped functioning. That's what happened. Could it happen again? The new sump is our sump on the right. It's polyethylene. It's not fiberglass. So this material does not shatter and will not do that. We have been working with Harco to manufacture a new fitting specifically for our equipment, and they have a trade name for it now. They're calling it VacTough. And we have gone through with them, testing them, and we call it missile proof. They call it VacTough, but that's basically what it is. It's a different material, and it does not shatter upon impact.
Think of a small rock going through the pipe at how many miles per hour? When it hit that elbow, it was like a bullet. This is trying to correct that, or it did correct it.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're going to have to kind of wind it up here.
That's the last slide right there. That's just showing our spec. Now that's current, our current design manual. It says, you know, this is what we're recommending that's used now.
And we appreciate the work you put into
Yes.
this.
Okay.
Any,
I
Ron?
just have a question. I just glanced at this, and I saw an average for 1,320 units, an average cost about $7,000 per house. Does that includes the, obviously the system, how, does that include the hookup to, is it just to the vacuum station, or is there then an additional cost? Did you include all of that in here?
Our estimates, you know, we could talk for about half an hour on this subject, but because there's a lot of words in there, so they're all in there. But what that includes is the cost of purchasing the equipment for and constructing the vacuum station, the vacuum mains, the valve pits, and what is typically done is a gravity line running out of our valve pit for 6 feet. And the reason we do that is so upon connection to the home, a backhoe doesn't come down and, you know, take out our valve pit. So we want the backhoe to be away from our, so that's what that includes. So it does not include a connection to like the gravity line from the house to the valve pit. And that's typically what a sewer system job usually involves. I say typically, you gotta watch the word typical, but
So
usually.
just the connection, but then how far do you take this to, there was, you know, Nate had talked about connecting up at the Sugarworks Pond station, or then relaying it to the material from the area to the treatment plant.
We're including everything that it takes to bring the sewage to our vacuum station. We did not include the force main from our vacuum station to where it's ever going, because we weren't 100% sure where that was gonna be. And so we just didn't include it. You're usually going to put that pipe in the same trench that you got another pipe, so that cost isn't really all that high anyway, but it's not included.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
This 7,000 that Ron mentioned, that was for the 2 vacuum stations. You said that our system
Yes.
was going to need 2 vacuum
Correct.
stations.
Correct. But that was the average for
Vacuum
one of
station.
them. Those averages won't be the same, so if you look
So
through
there are
that.
2 types, yeah, I averaged on both of them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right,
turns
all right.
out it's a 7.
So one might be 65, one might be 85 or
Right,
something
right,
like that,
yeah.
whatever
Right,
it is, yeah.
okay.
Good. Steve?
I just have, this is kind of a question both to you as well as to the other gentleman. In Massachusetts, there's a requirement that sewers and water mains have a certain amount of separation all the time. When the water mains are at 4 feet deep or 5 feet deep, and the sewers are, the systems are built at 4 or 5 feet, there's an issue about whether they cross above or below each other and having to do concrete encasement or tight systems. How do you guys work your way through that and resolve it? Is that a problem, or is that a design issue? What happens?
Well, for us, it's probably going to be more of an issue for us than for them, because we lay our pipe to a profile. So, water pipe can interfere with our pipe. In the state of Florida, the regulations are different because vacuum is so prevalent there.
But we're not in Florida, so
I know you're not in Florida, however, it might be worth your while to look into changing it. The reason why you can get variances is because the reason for those pipes not being close together is, what if the system goes down and the water system goes down, now you got sewage going into water. But since the vacuum system can't leak.
You're answering the question. In Massachusetts, the
I can
vacuum
answer
sewer
that.
is treated the same as a sewer force main or gravel.
18-inch separation. If it's close or not, water main is encased, usually. Not,
Usually they want you to go under, not over.
Right.
yes,
And that's
18
typical.
inches if you go under.
yes.
But I always suggest to people that because it makes sense to apply for a variation, that if you're going to look at this, then if I were you, I would. But yes, it affects us, yes.
Thank you very much for a
Very
good presentation.
Thank you.
Really, all of you, but
Yeah.
we appreciate you coming and appreciate all the information and the time you spent presenting it. You want to do 2 or move on to 3 first?
Anything, I agree with you. Whatever you just said. You want to do it?
I'm thinking 3, then they can try to clear out. We can move on to it.
You looking? Any extra cards? They circled this way.
Oh, above and beyond the ones we handed out? No. Here they are. Oh, here you go, yes.
Yeah.
We got them.
There it is, right here, Henry's cards.
All right, if the committee would agree, I'd like to rearrange items 3 and 2 so we could take up item 3 first, which is the Ecotoilet subcommittee's particular requests for a few items. Hearing no objection, let's do that. As Lynn explained to me, they would like to at least have this committee's assent to one or more of these items, so that as they talk to potential volunteers, they will be able to give them some level of comfort that this is what the town may be offering them. Is that right?
We would like particularly to get item 1 and item 2, and item 1 and item 2 are the money, and item that is not with the money. We'd like to get those, they are on the agenda tonight. And we'd like to get those discussed at the very least. I've included the others because there's a very strong feeling that we would like to help you look at those. If they could be discussed tonight, fine, but otherwise,
They won't be discussed tonight, as we discussed.
we want you to
But
have them available to
We're
you.
going to deal with A, B, and C, which are on the agenda.
All right, okay. Now, do I need to explain these things that I'm doing, or have I got a sufficient explanation? We could save time if I don't need to explain and can take questions.
Well, you did, Steve did send around the memo that you did, and in reference to section A here, your recommendation was that the committee authorized 15 grants or loan grants or whatever we call these things of $5,000 apiece as an incentive. Is that right?
The reason for only authorizing 15 at this time is that, number one, we don't know how many we're going to have eventually. We will know better a few months from now how many we will have to have. We need, however, to have some money available so that we can start installing things now. Without the money, we can't do anything. We can't give anybody an incentive. So we want some incentive money. We're willing to live with $75,000 worth of incentive money at this point.
Okay, you want to put a motion on?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion's made and seconded for the committee to recommend to the selectmen a loan grant incentive program of $5,000 for the first 15 initial potential participants who sign up. Okay. Discussion?
Just a little discussion. You, underneath, this is item 1, you have A, B, C, D, E, F. And I follow your logic on all of them, except B. The applicant must use a standard contract form provided by the town to solicit bids.
I can explain that.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, it needs some explanation, solicit bids for,
Yeah, Matt said here that.
and also, does this contract now exist? Or is this something that is another document that has to be created with some member of town government?
The answer to that is yes, it has to be created. The idea stems from loan programs that I've operated before at Self-Reliance, where we found that it was much easier if we provided a standard contract with all the right questions, so we would get the cost itemized for exactly what we wanted to see in a contract. It's not that hard to do. I feel confident that I could put it together in short notice, but it will make it much easier for us to evaluate what people are putting in and what the costs are and so on and so forth.
And solicit the bids for,
The installation of composting.
for the installation?
Or it could, right, the installation of eco-toilets, urine
Okay.
diverting or...
We could put that in there.
Okay. I think then, I'm willing to support this now, but I think by the time it gets to the selectmen, it should be an appendix. So here's a draft contract of what that would look like.
Okay.
Sounds fine.
Have you thought through the various end games for this? I mean, let's say everybody cooperates, so you don't call any of their loans. You get all the data you want, and but for one reason or another, eco-toilets don't become widely used. But they're in these houses. Does the infrastructure remain to handle them, and do people realize that they've got them and they have to live with them, or they pay to remove them? And all that, you've thought through all that?
Yeah, I'm sure they're...
I mean, it should certainly be spelled out in the contract to the people so so everybody understands what's going on. And the good side of it too, that if these are widespread, then
They can keep them or they can take them out after, I mean, if that's what they desire to do. But
there's
what
promise of
they're going
ongoing
to agree
maintenance or
to
something.
is to leave them in at least long enough for us to get the data that we're after.
We're not offering them money to take them out in case the toilets are never used in Falmouth. We're not offering them at this time money to take them out. And secondly, I think that they're going to have to be developed even for the small number of eco-toilets, and Jerry can speak to this, methods of making sure that when they're emptied, they go somewhere. In other words, when eco-toilets are emptied, they go to the plant or whatever. Whatever we do with them, there's got to be a method for doing that, and it has to be worked out. It's not going to be an immediate problem, but it will be there. So that people will probably have to have contracts, maintenance contracts, to have them emptied, like you would have said.
I'm just urging you to make sure that that's all
Yes.
in a really clearly written memo of understanding with the homeowners up front.
Right, that's not this contract though, that would be the memorandum of understanding what the homeowner can expect to do. This contract would have to do with the loan grant. We would have to have another memorandum, or another contract, which I think you have a version of that, which you and it's actually in the
Right.
on page. What page is that? On page 5 and 6. There's a version of the contract which people have to know what they're getting into, and we could add that to that.
Good point.
We could add that information to that.
I'm sorry, I see you missed something that, I thought the $5,000 was a grant. And that the loan would be from the county at 0% interest. Because it says $75,000 to provide incentive loans, grants for approximately 15, so 5 times 15 is 75, so we have that. But that is, I thought that was all the grant, or it was given, and then if they needed more money, they would get from the county a 0% interest
I
loan.
think the intent was it was going to be a loan which would turn into a grant if they proceeded to participate in the program and give us what we need from it. Is that right? Right.
Yes. George gave me a very strong statement that there may be problems. He's had problems in cases where they install something, a builder would install something, maybe in a new house, or a homeowner wanted to flip his house and install the thing, and then when the house is flipped, you're left high and dry.
Right. No, I can understand that, but I'm just saying, is that, to me, that's not clear here. I don't understand, so to the selectmen, when they see this, how, that commitment part of it, is that what you hear something?
Is the last sentence there under F on page 1, was that sufficient?
It's clear to me how this is a loan until they've successfully complied with anything, and then it, by definition, becomes a grant because you forgive the loan. But I think Ron is alluding to some other loan.
Yes, there is.
That he,
You are.
Completely different.
Completely different
but
program.
that might confuse people because it's the same word loan.
Well, the point has been raised, and it's a good one that people should understand, and it should be in this application perhaps, that it's a loan to begin with, which turns into a grant at the successful completion of the study.
It said, that states this. We were talking about A, B, and C. I thought they were just going to present.
We're mixing up two A, B, and
Oh,
C's
yeah.
here. This is the agenda A,
Oh, I
B,
see.
C,
Oh, okay.
and this is
Right.
task
This is item 1.
Item one.
Item A on the agenda.
one. Right.
So, okay.
Any further discussion on item A, which is a subsection of item 3 on the agenda?
One question, if I can. I think I understand this. Let's say that my cost to install an Ecotoilet in my house is $4,000. Buy it and install it. Am I going to get $5,000? No. I'm only going to get the cost up to
Up to.
$5,000. Okay.
That's what it
That's
says
how,
specifically.
that's how I read that. I just wanted to make sure that is what it is. Thank you. That was the only question I had.
Okay, any other?
Well, and the follow-on to that is if your cost is $8,000,
You only can
Still
get
we'll only get
five,
$5,000.
and you,
Under this plan.
and the balance.
Now, I'd like to say this, that there are some cases in Falmouth where people have already installed eco-toilets. They, however, may require another eco-toilet installed in the house before they can get, because you have to have eco-toilets in every. And so that may cost them $2,000, whatever it costs.
Okay, so that's.
They
what
would
get.
only get that.
Got it,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the
Can I
point.
just ask, how did you come up with the number 15?
We don't know how many we're going to get. I would like, do you think we ought to ask for more? I would,
Well, no.
I
I would have thought 12, just because 12 is the number we're talking about to become provisionally approved. But 15 has some basis?
it has no basis except for we know we have about 30 people on the list of people who may possibly choose to install eco-toilets. We don't know how many will be able to go in this summer and next fall. We would like to be able to go back to the town when we need more money and get it. And we thought that $75,000 was a nice round sum to ask them for at this time.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, there's a motion's been made.
One last question, because only because you brought it up, and maybe I'm thinking too hard here. If the goal is to get a number of installations in place, to be able to measure across a range of installations, if there's already a dwelling that has an eco-toilet in it, and somebody decides they want to add a second bathroom to their house, they're not really adding to, no, okay, you gave an example and it just sounded like, I'm not sure where the screening comes in here for who gets the loan or doesn't get the loan, that's all I'm saying.
That's a question I have not thought about.
Well, obviously, if they're adding an additional bathroom, I don't think that's gets us to where we need to be. What I understood you to say is you often have houses that have an eco-toilet, but they may also have a standard toilet somewhere else.
Right.
And it's one of the requirements from
Right.
Barnstable County.
That they all be. I
That
get
they
you.
all
The
be.
entire
Right.
house has to have
Okay.
all eco-toilets.
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
If a person already has 15 eco-toilets and they need one more to become compliant with your study, they deserve the 5,000 to become compliant, because then they're helping you out.
Right.
On
That's
the
what
other
I'm saying.
hand, if they need 2 eco-toilets, it doesn't make sense to give them 10,000.
No, no, no.
This is
No,
per
it's
house.
5,000.
Per house.
Per
house.
Cap.
Yeah.
Right.
And less if it costs them less.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion on the $5,000 loan grant incentive program? Understanding that what this would be a recommendation from us to the selectmen that they support this use of this amount of money for this purpose.
That's right.
Okay? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, item B is a corollary to item A, which is a $300 incentive for pumping out for these same people.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I did have some special.
Can
Steve?
Oh.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Steve.
Just that the grammar on the agenda is a lot clearer
Then-
than in this form. I know that 5,000 is ridiculous for a single pump out, but I think you want to be crystal clear that it's 300 per pump out. And that you're doing
I agree,
15 of them.
yeah.
I don't care how you reword it, but the way it is there is confusing.
We could just say for 15...
And I'm saying that to help you, so
Yeah,
that someone, the
absolutely.
selectman, doesn't say, you're paying $5,000 for a septic pump out, you know?
Right, you just need to change that first line, so it's $300 pump out for, and I was gonna say, there's no reason why you should put 15 or 16. I mean, you started with 15, just leave it at 15.
I would like to say this about pump outs. We don't know how much the pump outs are going to be. We're going to pay the full amount of the pump out up to in other words, I have a 2,000 gallon tank. It cost me, when I last pumped it out, which was this June, a month ago or so, it cost me $370 to have it pumped out.
But
Someone
it's
with
not
a 900,
5,000.
not 5,000. Yes, I get your point, but it costs, someone has a 900 gallon tank is going to cost less than $300. I don't know what we need to develop an amount which we will give per, perhaps per gallon of.
What
Well,
you're trying to-
something like-
We shouldn't say $300, we should
You're
say,
saying up to $300.
we should say $5,000 to pay for 15 pump outs.
Well,
It seems to me.
let's not mix these two up now. We've already addressed the $5,000 piece.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, your 5,000 is to pay for the 15. Oh, I get it.
15
Okay,
pump outs.
got it.
You want to pay for pump outs up to a sum not, a total sum not to exceed 5,000.
That's right.
Or each individual pump out should be not to exceed 300.
That's the
Well,
whole question.
mine exceeded 300. I think I would be totally unfair if they didn't pay the full cost of that pump out.
Oh, okay.
Pump outs are done by private contractors.
Right.
The rates are like you say, the rates go up in the summertime, they're down in the springtime. There's a little bit of minutia we have to straighten out, that if the homeowner pays it, then we have to pay the homeowner. If they expect us to pay the pump out person, which I wouldn't recommend, all these people have to give us their social security numbers, because we don't pay a check to anybody without social security numbers. There's just minutia administrivia that a simple thing like this will need to be thought out so people understand. I don't think the town's getting in the septic tank pump out.
No,
Private
no,
people,
absolutely not.
Right.
you know, people will pay what their standard rates are.
And
And
we
we'll
will-
reimburse them up to,
we have to decide what we will reimburse them up to. If they have a large tank, we will reimburse them more than a small tank. it
Say
seems to me.
standard rates, that's,
Yeah.
you want to say something like $5,000 total to cover the 15 initial pump outs at standard rates, or something like that.
Or whatever they cost.
I'm going to try to simplify this. We're going to make a motion here that says we want the selectmen to allow the Ecotoilet folks to use up to $5,000 to arrange, to reimburse people who have to do pump outs to participate in the program. There's got to be some criteria here. You don't want somebody to go out and hire their brother at $1,500 to pump out a 200-gallon tank and submit the bill and pay it. There's got to be some reasonableness to get management, but that's the devil in the details, right, Jerry?
Right.
And what they have to do to get the check and everything else. But but no more than $5,000. No more than $5,000 in total towards pump outs.
Okay, is that the intention of this motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have the motion clarified.
In the same way, I would suggest to do that with the $75,000 too. That we would spend no more than $75,000 on 15 homes. But it could be that some homes are 2,000, but there might be another home that is really important for our research that might cost 6,000 or 7,000 and might be a low income person, whatever. And that we have, because some cost 2,000, some cost 7,000, that we could possibly do that. And there's some conditions, like if it's a low-income house, or if it's a business, or a situation with a construction that's really difficult, where we have to learn from. It might cost a little bit more, but it would have a real value for either social or for construction purposes. And I would say $75,000 for 15 homes, and that's the limit, and that we are somewhat flexible in how we allocate that money to the particular situation.
The point that she is raising has to do with the motion that we have already acted upon. So I suggest we finish acting upon this one, and then we can take a vote whether we want to reconsider the earlier one, and if so, we can reconsider it. But right now, let's finish up with this one, which is the $5,000 for the pump out.
I'd like to say, I think we can find an easy way to correct the language at the top so it's clear.
Okay.
But I'd like to answer what Jerry was talking about. I think B and C were my attempts to act as a lawyer for the town. I think that probably what we need to do is make sure that the language of those is what the town wants it to be, to meet their needs. I tried in C to say that we would pay the homeowner directly after it was approved. In other words, I tried to say that we weren't going to pay the pump out.
You can be sure that before it's done, the lawyers for the town will have an opportunity to make it clear.
So we can leave that language as it is and let them sort that out.
Yeah.
Just a concept.
Yes.
Just,
Mr. Finneran.
if you paid $370 to have a 2,000-gallon tank pumped out, I think the thing's gonna settle itself, because most tanks are 1,500 gallons.
That's right.
So doing the arithmetic, it's gonna come in under 300, so I think it's gonna
Right.
settle itself anyway.
It probably will.
You're right. Yeah, it's going to be very rare if anybody pays more
And
than
it goes over.
$300.
And they're gonna make up for it with the low-end ones.
Right.
I think you're right, and that's why we said 300 per, that's what George Heufelter said, that's what he thinks it will come to be, about 300 per. So I think it will wash itself out, we just have to say the words right.
Great. Okay, Ron.
Well, it seems that these two go together. Okay, basically, you have to pump, if you get in the program, you have to pump out.
Yes. Right.
So I'm just wondering why it isn't $5,300. Okay, $5,300 total for the installation and the pump. This is it, this is what you get, this is the. What? Okay.
Well, the short answer is because we have a motion before us that
Yeah, right?
The wording's here.
presents it this way.
Well, and the other short answer I would say is expressed in item B, and that is that 300 is the average, but they expect that some costs will be more and some will be less, and they didn't want to be limited to, they wanted to be able to cover the total cost,
Yes.
whatever it turned out to be. So that pumping out, which is critical to doing collecting the data, did not become a barrier for a person saying, I won't do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so I understand, although I think that operationally it may be a little difficult for the town to decide, you use the word adjust the sum up or down. I think what you want to say is you're going to reimburse the homeowner for his actual cost to pump out.
As long as that is not unreasonable.
Well, sure, then you may
Give it.
decide he's not part of the program, I mean, the ball. My question was, who is the town that's going to make this decision? about whether the cost is reasonable or not.
I would like to ask a question in return for that, because George has been asking me the same kind of question about the way the BCDHE will operate. George has been saying, is the town going to authorize him to make certain decisions about reimbursing people with a set amount of money which he has available, or does the town want to retain all of that control of reimbursing each one? And he says he needs to know the answer to that.
Okay.
And so that's partly, that has to do with that.
Obviously, the selectmen are going to make a decision.
Yes.
But we need to think functionally, what's the
What
simplest and
is,
clearest?
I mean, I'd say let Judge do it, but I don't know what the cost is, or whether we have the Board of Health people do it, or whether we have the wastewater department do it, or you know, it's detailed.
Right.
It is detailed.
I think our thinking was that George would be the best person to do it, and it wouldn't cost us any more to have him do it than.
That sounds good to everybody around this table. Eh?
This doesn't address that question. But
No, it doesn't.
it is a question that's
The only
going to come
question we
up.
have before us is the $5,000 for the pump outs.
Right.
And do we want to take a vote on that now?
Right, because
Because
if the
all we're doing-
selectmen don't buy into it, then the
Right,
rest of the
right.
details.
Yeah.
And that's really what you wanted to get out of
That's right,
tonight.
exactly.
Right.
Hearing no more.
Was there actually a motion?
There
Yes,
was
there
one?
was.
Okay.
Well, we're assuming that Wynn is going to fix up the grammar.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll fix it up so that at least
Okay.
it reads clearly. We made this, the selectmen may decide to change the wording later to make it even clearer.
Oh, okay. Further discussion, I think we've exhausted the subject. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're there.
Okay.
Okay. Item C, well, there was some a discussion about revisiting item A. Is there anyone on the committee who would like to revisit item A?
I would just like to make it, just one, I mean, you know, this seems much more complicated to me than it needs to be still. And going back to what I was saying, I mean, if $300 is not enough, we make it $5,400 for both actions. And then for them to comply with the program, to be forgiven the grant, they will have had to do the pump out, they will have had to do all the other needs. And it would just be a much simpler element that there's none of this bookkeeping and all this stuff happening about writing checks to one person for $380 and social security numbers, whatever it is we're concerned about. But the point is that I'm just wondering if it, you know, it would go together basically as a.
It sounds like you're asking us to reconsider A and B, is that right?
Well, that's,
And I
yeah,
just-
that's not
yeah.
the issue at hand.
The issue at hand is, are we
Yeah.
going to reconsider B?
Or A.
Well, now you're
A.
saying,
A was-
I haven't
the
heard
older
any
raised
motions
A.
to reconsider at all. So is there anyone who wants to reconsider anything? Okay, I
Can I
don't see
say-
any motions, so let's move on to C. Okay, authorization to Barnstable County Health Department to test and monitor potential participant sites outside of Falmouth. Now, this may be controversial. Is there a motion on this one?
Excuse me?
I'll make this motion, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
there's a motion been made and seconded?
This is the, excuse me,
This is C on the
Item
agenda.
Number
C on the agenda. It's
3C.
on page 3, at the bottom of page 3.
No,
No.
front page. Item 3C.
Yes, he's referring to his own memo.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the agenda, which is also on your memorandum as number,
Where's my agenda?
It's not actually numbered.
it's not
Oh,
numbered.
here.
It's the
It's
bottom
here.
of page 3. It's
the bottom
not
of page
actually
3.
numbered.
After number
Yeah.
4, if it were
Bottom of
numbered,
page
it would be
3.
number 5.
Number 5.
Okay. Okay. I haven't had a second on it yet, but I,
Winnie, you going to second the motion?
I'll second the motion
There we go,
for
good.
the sake of
Yes,
discussion.
all right,
I just wanted to be sure what we were doing first.
well, let me know when you find out.
This is, this is a way for us to save money.
Okay.
Okay, it's plain and simple. If we find people who have eco-toilets outside of town, we propose that we give the Barnstable County Health Department the ability to do the testing and pay for that testing ourselves without paying incentives for the installation because it's already installed. But because there are these systems or installations existing, we can gather some valuable data without having to pay for an installation. Does that make sense?
That's exactly.
In fact, won't you actually save precisely 5,000? Because
Yes.
the 800 you'd pay anyway,
No, that's the
for
whole
all
point.
of them.
That's the whole point. The
No,
800.
the Falmouth ones, you also have to do the sampling.
Yes, of course,
Yes.
you pay 800 in Falmouth, but we're asking that you be able to pay 800 outside of Falmouth in order to save 5,000, so you save
The
4,200.
money is actually going to the Barnstable County Health Department to do the testing
That's the memorandum of
for
understanding.
installations outside.
Wherever the toilet is.
Right.
Wherever the toilet is, yes.
So that's, the 800 is a wash. That's-
Yeah.
Well, I'm helping you. I mean, you're
Yes.
saving 5,000.
No, you're right. I don't know what the
saving 5,300.
issue is.
Okay, Steve.
Okay.
I just want to be sure I understand the geographic issue here a little bit. And I may have it all wrong, but the goal is to get up to 62 locations.
Well, yeah.
I'm just starting, just
Okay.
let me,
Go ahead.
sometimes I go slow, sometimes I go fast. I'm going slow on this one. So trying to gather up to 62 locations. So let's say hypothetically, you guys get into it and we find, because my math will be easier, 22 places in Falmouth, leaving 40 more you're looking for. Now you can find on Cape Cod, already existing, another 20. Are you then going to go into Plymouth? Are you going to go to Western Massachusetts?
No, it's limited by Barnstable County's,
Barnstable County. Okay, I'm just trying to get the.
Barnstable County Health Department.
I'm thinking backward to, if we're taking groundwater out of the Cape, it's got a certain chemistry to it that may influence everything that we're getting for sampling results, that's all. So, okay, so it is Barnstable County.
sure.
Okay. Is there a threshold where you would say, if we could get nobody to sign up in Falmouth, we'll still go sample 62 in towns other than Falmouth? Or are you trying to get a minimum split on this, or do you, no criteria?
We have not yet developed that kind of criteria. We've
Okay.
not felt it necessary to do so.
You're not trying to get 50-50 or anything like that?
No, we're not. George has said he has 2 cases outside of Falmouth now. I believe one is in Sandwich and one is in Mashpee or Bourne or wherever it is, that have failed septic systems that would like to do something now, that come under his 319 grant. He thinks he could get them to do this. And the idea was, he said he probably can pay for those out of his own money. In other words, he doesn't have to pay for those. He can pay for those out of the 319, but he can't pay an indefinite number out of 319. If we get enough outside of Falmouth, we may have to start paying some of it. So we wanted to have the freedom to do that when the time came.
Virginia.
When the time came,
Yes.
my suggestion is that you don't ask for this now. I think you pursue the 15 in Falmouth. I think that there will be a legal problem with using Falmouth money for locations outside of Falmouth, but I think if you're successful with the 15, then I think it's more likely that it might, the selectmen might consider it. I can't support it at this time.
I just have a question. When you say that he can do a certain number with their own budget, how many is that?
Well,
doesn't know.
Let him do that.
Oh, if we know, that would be good to know, yeah.
Anybody else on the committee with a comment or an observation?
I'd like to ask Virginia, this is a politically wise thing that you're suggesting that we do. From a political point of view, it's wise to do it that way because it's difficult for them.
I would, I'm not saying that it's wise, it's only my experience. I'm just building on my experience.
Yeah. Can I offer just a thought on this? We were all here, or most of us were here with the Community Preservation Act Committee, and we were here to talk about the housing piece, but one of their members brought up this question of where are you doing things in the project area, and he was referenced the town meeting recommendation. We understand it was not in the motion itself, but it was certainly in the recommendation that these experiments were going to be conducted in the project area, which certainly would not be beyond the limits of the town of Falmouth. So that is what we told town meeting, and one of those folks did pick up on that.
this is a little bit different question, I think. I'd like to frame it a little bit differently, that we have to, if we're doing it within Falmouth, then certainly there's the question, must it be within the project area or can it be elsewhere? And we've talked through that and we've said we think we can do it anywhere in town that we can find them because it helps us to do that. It makes it possible. This is the question of whether Barnstable County will have perhaps some possibilities of doing them outside of Falmouth. I don't know how many. It's even possible that other towns maybe want to get in on the act. And there's some possibility that we talk with other towns, they may want to do that in the other act, in which case we might ask them to pay for it. The question, it seems to me, is whether we, and Virginia has framed it reasonably well, it seems to me, whether we ought to ask for the money now in pursuant to George's request that we clarify this point. He wrote it into the, let's just read quickly on page 4, compensation for services and accountability. Let's just read the language of this and see what it says. Should the town of Falmouth, through its Water Quality Management Committee, determine that sampling from locations outside of Falmouth is to be conducted, BCDHE will perform these samples using for its transportation and staff costs those outlined in the estimate of costs previously submitted, and so forth. All analytical costs shall be similar, and so forth. And then he goes on, accordingly, the town of Falmouth should deposit 2 installments of $25,000 each. He's clearly thinking that those 2 installments of $25,000 would pay for the sampling he did of 62 sites, whether or not they were within Falmouth. He's thinking along those lines, and he wants that clarified. That's my understanding of why this is being brought up at this time.
We don't have, I think, staying with Virginia's, we don't have to make that decision at this time.
We don't have to.
The agreement says that this committee has to make a determination that will be done. So until we make that determination, this paragraph, he can't go outside.
That's right. The answer is he can't go outside. Until he gets a green light to go outside, he has to use the 25,000 and
from this committee and from the selectmen.
And from the selectmen, right.
Virginia, you think this is illegal to use our money outside of town?
It may be illegal, but just knowing the wide range of town meeting members and selectmen and people who, it just raises a lot of flags. And right now, you really want to move forward. So don't put a stumbling block.
Okay. I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah, I think this came up several times before. We are saving money if we use existing toilets and do the research. And the research is going to benefit the demonstration project and the results that we are looking for in a much more timely manner. So if we have, and I never heard that it had to be even in Barnstable County, because George has discussed using the ones on the vineyard, which are about 20 toilets. And if we could avoid installing 20 toilets here and only pay for the research parts on the gray water, we would get the results much quicker and cheaper, which will benefit Falmouth. So that was his take on it. If we have done money left over, then we have more money to spend on more toilets in Falmouth. But at least we can get the results that they're looking for much quicker, much cheaper.
Mr. Chairman. I think we all get that point. I think what we're deciding on is whether this isn't a good time to ask for that money. And clearly Virginia recommends that we don't do that. So I think if we, sometime down the road, if we have some success under our belt, maybe it would be a better time to do it. I understand. I think if it was up to me, I would do it right now, but I don't think it's, I don't want to go into it with only, not quite a majority or not quite 100% vote here.
And in the meantime, we could just informally check with Frank Duffy.
And there's also the political side to this. If you're going to the selectmen with 3 requests here, 2 of which are relatively non-controversial, but there is a sizable amount of Falmouth taxpayer money.
Yes.
And the third one is to spend some more taxpayer money outside of Falmouth. That is not a good combination to walk in with to see the selectmen.
I would say perhaps the thing to do would be to wait until George says, I cannot do any more outside of Falmouth unless I get some money from somebody to do it.
Right.
And then at that
Yes.
point, we can ask the question.
Come
Right,
on, come on.
But
Yep.
find out whether it's legal, that may just settle the issue, and then you'll have to work it another way.
Even though it saves a lot of money, it may not be legal, you're saying?
That happens. That happens.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there's no
Okay.
motion, so I think we've dealt with A, B, and C, and number 3.
I'd like to ask if people would read the rest of them, of the things I've put on here, and be ready to discuss them at some future time,
Very good.
as soon as possible.
Got it.
Well, let's have them on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, the next meeting is pretty crowded. In the next meeting, we're taking up the entire CWMP, which we have to deal with.
Next available.
Next available, thank you.
Good choice of words.
Okay,
Next available space on the agenda.
let's see. Number 2, this is the staff concerns on the RFP boilerplate paragraph regarding level of participation by firms that have proprietary interest. It's a small issue, but it's been kicking around too long, and we should air it briefly and dispose of it.
I'll throw it out there and then let Jerry, you can pick it up. Everybody should have I sent by email what I thought were the right 2 paragraphs from whatever was sitting on my computer. Jerry has been continuing to fine tune or whatever the RFPs. And so everybody should have a piece of paper that's got a piece of yellow highlighting on it. Did you
Yes,
get it?
yes.
Okay, I don't know. You had it on.
For some reason, it didn't print out highlighted, but,
No, you need to take this because it's different.
oh, I see.
Okay?
All right.
If you don't have one with the yellow highlight on it,
don't.
which is
Oh, you do?
I've got one.
what I printed out.
Okay.
And so there's 2 paragraphs. One, Steve, which you brought up before, the issue about
I would,
intellectual ownership. And I just want, these are 2 paragraphs that keep kicking around back and forth in the RFP, and Jerry's trying to finalize things, so I think this board needs to be, either say, these paragraphs are clearly acceptable or not. And I think on the first paragraph, it's an issue you brought up. On the second paragraph, my sense, Jerry, is that the line below that is not a line that was in the drafts you got, but a line that you added in because you felt it was necessary for the town to have in there. So I'll let you.
Yeah, all these RFPs have been, what came out of the committee was a concept. If anybody thinks, and I know you argued over things word by word, the thing I got was a red line document that, maybe we should have said we wanted more perfect or better. It wasn't. So as I was going through these, I didn't even expect that I was going to be the lead on this. Well, on this I would have been. We had this concerns of proprietary interest, who owns it, if it's been developed under our watch, not if someone comes into the project with a proprietary interest, but if their intellectual work during the project, we should own it. If they come into the project with proprietary interest, we should know about it. They should declare it up front. I think that's generally what's considered under conflict of interest, upfront disclosure. I think Steve and I had exchanged a number of emails, and Steve thought that maybe this was exclusionary and may not even be acceptable under mass procurement laws or the AG. He provided me with 4 examples of issues that would be that could be exclusionary. I called up all 4 of those. There were 3 firms and 1 institution. They all agreed they didn't think it was an issue to include the last one. I called up the AG's office. They have a special person that deals with questions along these lines. especially there's engineering procurement, and then there's 30B procurement, which is all other procurement. And there's always an issue of fairness, and the issue generally comes down to, you put in the RFP what your thought process is going to be. It's not fair if people either like or don't like a proprietary interest, and to have it evaluated out during the criteria because someone says, well, to do criteria 3B, whatever it is. This is coming up front, telling folks and telling whoever the reviewers are what the general rules of the game are. The third one was one I think I asked input from one of our technical consultants, and he had thought that if the person is not the lead on a teaming arrangement, and I think a lot of RFPs will be teaming arrangements, not all of them, but most of them, I have a feeling, that if the person's not the lead and reports into the lead, but is part of the team, that allows a person with a proprietary interest to fully participate. It does exclude that person from being the lead on that, and that, I think, gets into what I think we want to do is protect the town, that we don't want to have to go out and hire someone else to reevaluate something that was done by a person or persons that may have proprietary interests. I don't see where this is exclusionary. I would like to receive comments on why individuals or the committee don't like it. I will not debate this. This is a proprietary thing that, obviously I'm going to have to go back through my own boss and Frank, the town council. But I would be interested in your concerns, and maybe you could air them now. Who, if anybody, are we excluding, and why is this bad?
I'll start the discussion. I'll say first, I'm a little disturbed that it's coming up so late, because I thought these RFPs had, gone through and were ready to be issued. I went back and looked at all of the RFPs that we've worked on, because it was a standard contract that Heather gave to Mike Domenica. And they all have the first paragraph, which is the intellectual property rights. And so word for word, it was item 12 in the general conditions, and it's in every contract. This issue of proprietary interests apparently came up at some point. I find it in my notes. It actually came up when we were originally talking about the shellfish. And now it's surfaced again in the reactive barriers. And so that circles around the second paragraph, which was originally fairly short and now has sort of reiterated some of the information in the first paragraph. So I'm not sure whether you need the reiteration, but it makes a specific point that any responder has to provide a signed statement. So that's the new piece that's been added. It's not just you submit a proposal and you obviously have to agree with all the conditions of the proposal. That's sort of standard. This requires a positive act that the respondent must provide a signed statement that describes, in his opinion, if he has any proprietary, patent, or commercial interest. So that's a legal question. I think it's a reasonable request. As I said, it's not normally in the general conditions, but I don't have a real problem with that. What I do have a problem with, because I don't think it's functional, is this paragraph that's now labeled number 3, which says that a person with an identified interest cannot be a lead consultant. So it means that every company or that's interested in what we're doing here looks through this and has to decide whether they do or don't have a proprietary interest. So they have to make their own judgment about whether they are or are not in this category. And if they are, then they can't apply unless they team up with somebody else. So it really becomes subjective, and to me it does appear exclusionary. If you know, my normal reaction would be to ask Frank Duffy whether this is really appropriately there. I'm not sure why you're so worried that you think that the paragraph 3 needs to be in there, and I
Can address that.
Sure.
Can I say something?
Let him
Go
answer
ahead,
that, and
yeah.
let's go
I
back.
think we have never had an RFP before that is probably going to have primarily a lot of consultants and our citizens probably more concerned with proprietary interests than necessary performance standards. Because some of these things we're going to be going out, maybe not on the, maybe I'm misstating it, okay? And so that we know there's a whole bunch of people on I&A systems that have proprietary interests. A lot of the systems are very good. Do you want them leading the evaluation, and I'll use Oyster Pond, leading that evaluation as to what is the best solution? Or would you rather have an independent consultant that's responsible for this, and if he or she chooses to team up with someone that they feel is respectable and they can live with in whatever business decisions they have, they will bring that technology in. It doesn't exclude that consultant even if that technology wasn't part of the team. In fact, I would expect the consultant to evaluate fairly all technologies that meet our performance standards. When you now have a particular technology that has a specific, commercial interest leading that, I think it puts the town in an awkward position, even if we could take it out. I think it's a judgment call, and I think it's something, because we know, at least for Oyster Pond, that's going to be a big issue. We've been told by at least one of the most leading ones that that person has no proprietary interest. He told us that in the meeting. When it comes to PRBs, if you believe that that proprietary interest exists, it doesn't exist because the person said it doesn't exist. So I don't know if people think we're excluding anybody. I don't have a long list of other proprietary products that could come in under a PRB. I think it's going to be a scientific application. I want the knowledge, and I'm saying I should say, I hope you want, that the knowledge that comes out of it to be owned by the town and to be used by the town and can be shared or given away by the town. When it comes to shellfish, most of this may not be applicable. There are some gears that used to collect shellfish are proprietary. I think the gear to me is not necessarily the person. Maybe Ron could fill me in. I tripped over something that I don't believe, but I sent it around. There is actually a patent out for removing nitrogen from shellfish. Some people may say it's not worth the powder it's written on. All I'm saying is I was shocked to find a patent. I don't want any of these things to interfere with the project goal of collecting information that we can use and transfer freely. So, I come back and ask for people, like you said, why is it there? We can disagree, we could probably take it out. Oh, Frank, or town manager, or Ray may weigh in. But think about the journey we're about to partake in. We want it to be, use your words, completely transparent, that we're opening and we're looking at things fairly. And that was my intent. I did everything I could to make sure I wasn't excluding anybody,
Okay. Well, that's-
intentionally.
No, we respect that, I think, Steve.
I think it's important to keep in mind that the various RFPs are quite different from each other. For instance, I had brought up the issue on number 1 here. It's fine. I would add at the end of the sentence, which will not be unreasonably withheld. And I'm only doing that to try to protect. It has nothing to do with Oyster Pond or the other specific things. So there's obviously not going to be anything of any value outside Oyster Pond. But I was doing that to protect the Ecotoilet people, that they might, I mean, I saw it not doing any harm. The town is not about to collect royalties of any significance. But suppose you want something like the comic book made by someone. If they know they can use it and publish it, they're going to, in principle, other things being equal, give you a lower bid. Because they know they won't have to deal with some Mickey Mouse application, that they will have the ability to publish that, and that's in everybody's interest. And on the second one, it is relevant to something like Oyster Pond. There are plenty of competent general purpose engineers in this area who have no proprietary interests. Since we're comparing different technologies, why would anyone want one of the people with a particular proprietary interest when you can choose from several good ones who have no proprietary interest? Politically, it would be a disaster in terms of public acceptance if one group that didn't like that approach could say, look, you hired the guy that makes these things. That's all I have to say about that.
But finish your thought. So are you comfortable with all 3 paragraphs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, oh, in fact, I'm only concerned that number 3 might not be strong enough, but I'm not a contracting attorney, because can you have like a dummy front man? Your lead consultant is really sort of a sham, but I don't know enough about these sort of.
I think we could see that, right? Hopefully.
Okay.
But I'm willing to live with it the
Ron,
way it is.
I just wonder, I mean, from experience with, through the, the bids themselves are gonna be pretty clear about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it, and these kind, I mean, isn't that sort of the standard evaluation process you go through at that point?
Yeah.
It's through the bids more than some upfront thing that's sort of doing, it's just the way they present, and if it's going to be, they're asserting a certain technology because of whatever, we have to evaluate that technology. These guys were here tonight. He pulled up that valve thing and put it on the table. Well, I presume that's proprietary, I don't know, but if it is, and we decide on a vacuum system, what are we gonna say? Sorry, you can't do it because you have a proprietary valve.
No.
No, that's
no,
for these
no.
RFPs, it's for
Yeah.
the existing RFPs.
He will not.
No, I
He
know,
cannot, he will not propose, because he's not a consultant. He doesn't wear 2 hats. None of those 3 people you had
No, I'm just
would,
saying,
well, no,
the
I think it's important.
the company could bid on something
No,
that has
they-
a proprietary piece of equipment in it.
No,
and
they
then what?
cannot.
So
They
can't.
cannot. They're not consultant engineers. They will not bid on it. If a consultant wants to use that technology or evaluate that technology, I hope they evaluate all 3 technologies. We're going to require them to evaluate a full range of technology. I don't want any one of those 3 people leading that. I want an independent consultant doing it. And I hope, we're going to insist that they look at those 3
All
technologies.
right, Matt.
I agree. I think Jerry's made some valid points. The reason I mentioned item 1 is because after talking to Hilda and Earl, they thought exactly what Mr. Layton said, was that what if we come up with some great educational pieces and we want to take them to other towns, can we do that? And clearly they can if the town gives them permission, and and I think the sentence you suggested, which would not be unreasonably withheld.
It's very standard.
Can you just check on that? I'm fine with all
I could
this.
put that in, and we get into the quandary of what's unreasonably held. But that's what I'm saying. Give me your suggestions for your wording.
Oh, you just got one.
I think that's a good
I've
suggestion.
seen that on a zillion contracts,
Not,
All right.
would you send it to me?
which will not be
Okay.
unreasonably withheld.
All right. Now, let me just say, I think Jerry's obviously doing what he feels is his job here, but I think we were all under the impression, as was the town and the town meeting, that we were going to produce RFPs with the aid of a consultant who was a professional person in the engineering field who was very skilled at preparing RFPs. We spent a lot of time and energy on all these RFPs. We put them out in great detail after great review. They went to the Selectmen unanimously voted for them. And then to find out that it's the position of the wastewater department that they get to edit them, change them as they see fit did not occur to me until after the RFPs were produced by the Selectmen. And I don't think it occurred to anyone else in this committee.
Okay. First of all, the language, and I think we talked about this before, was this was a concept. You know, I'm not going in and changing.
Nobody here thought we were working on a concept.
Well, this wording never went, none of these RFPs in the exact term went in front of the Selectmen, okay? I had discussed and sent these things at various times. They were never brought up. I discussed things with the consultants. They were cut between me and the committee. There were a number of things that went like this. I don't think this is a major change to what you want, and that is competitive RFPs. And this is part of the problem of me trying to get this out is I have to respond. I am responsible for these RFPs, not the committee. If I don't understand them, then I elevate it.
You were invited and participated in almost every meeting we had on almost every RFP, and all these points could have been brought up at those times, and they weren't. By you.
No. At times, I was told, we want to get these things through, we'll straighten it out. In fact, it might have been one of the meetings you weren't there. I will stand by that it was my understanding, not that I was going to go back and change anything, and I will challenge anybody to say I'm changing anything. I am making this RFP a better product. If it's not a better product, and I think Steve and I had a discussion, once these RFPs go on the street, well,
Which
no, yes, Steve,
okay.
you can always amend the RFP. You know, that if, you know, when people get, no one has seen, unless the RFP goes out and wins this. Damn it, Jerry, that's not what we meant. You really missed the boat on the Ecotoilet ones. I say, you know, I changed it, you're right. We go out and we amend the RFP to the people that submitted, and we say, this is a clarification. Or they come in with questions, which we already have in there, and we say, you know, you raise a good question, we need to clarify. That all has to happen pretty quickly once we start. So, you know, I disagree, I agree with what you're saying, but I challenge you, it wasn't in front of the Selectmen like that. And I have the red line wording that was sent to me. Any of you can take it, wrap it up, and give it back to me so that it makes sense, there's not duplications, and it's consistent with procurement law. Nowhere do we discuss procurement law. Steve had said in a previous issue on insurance, procurement, leave it to the town.
Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
I have a tendency to just go along with Jerry because he is the professional. He's going to be responsible for putting these RFPs out. I don't think he would try to pull a fast one on us. He knows us too well to try to do it. And he wouldn't do that anyway. I'm just kidding.
Well, the lamb's laying down together. It's quite tough.
Well, I have no reason to question his integrity on this.
Fair enough. Steve.
Well, I am going to take, I have to step in here and take a task on this one, Jerry, a little bit. This paragraph about identifying your proprietary interests came up for discussion both in the shellfish and in the permeable reactive barriers, and you were very clear that you wanted to put that sentence in there, excluding anybody with proprietary interests from taking the lead. And through both of the committees that we worked through, we did not, as a committee, we did word by word on the shellfish. And we brought it before the full committee without that paragraph in there. So I was quite surprised to find that after you sitting through a couple of committees and participating and expressing your opinion as you are expressing it tonight, that you then put it back in. So I
put
do
it in.
respect your professionalism. I do respect that you're trying to protect the town. But this is a case of whether or not, when you sit through a bunch of committee meetings where it gets discussed multiple times, if at the end of the day you feel that what you're doing is better than anything else you've listened to, you do or don't do. So I am not happy to find that paragraph in there. It may be a perfectly acceptable paragraph, it may be a paragraph we need. And so I wasn't going to sign off on it when I saw it with you, which is why it's in front of us. And if everybody in this committee is comfortable with it, and I'll be comfortable with it too. But it's how it showed up that was upsetting to me.
I got that from our professional consultant. He wasn't sitting in on some of these meetings, he came in later. I said, you know, there's a strong feeling that people think we're excluding someone. Our professional consultant gave me that wording.
Meaning Mike Domenico?
Yes, yeah, that this is a way of making.
Well, he drafted 3/4 of these, and he didn't
Mr.
install any of them. Steve?
Is part of the problem here that, I mean, I've noticed in other organizations that corporate attorneys and purchasing people like to standardize things. It's their version of what engineers call mass production. You know, you get it right and use it everywhere and you don't have to think about it. But, for instance, Steve Rafferty doesn't, and the PRB committee don't want paragraph 2 apparently in the PRB RFP. But the Oyster Pond Committee would like to have it there. And I don't see why the two RFPs can't be different.
I don't think the PRB RFP is probably the one where we will develop intellectual property rights, and we want to know going in up front if someone is proposing something that is protected by intellectual property rights. I don't think it is, but I don't know who's going to come in.
Now, that may be the actual one where that's the crux of the issue here. We're not really, the shellfish isn't, I don't think, and none of the others are. But to put the name out there, Pio Lombardo, who has been the apostle, he has been pushing PRBs before any of us knew what a PRB was.
Correct.
And I think this language would preclude him from being the lead consultant on proposing a PRB for this town. And I think that's the concern, that we're precluding a guy who clearly has demonstrated interest and ability and perhaps proprietary interest.
Well, he had told us he has no proprietary interest.
Well, but that's...
Well, no. I was at the meeting, Steve was at the meeting.
Yeah.
He told us he had no, so I didn't think I was excluding him.
So you don't think this excludes him? Okay.
Did you say it ran out in March?
Was it?
Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had it up until this March, and I think he said that last
So it
year.
doesn't exclude him. I don't know if it excludes anybody, but this is this is probably one of the most important technologies we're going to evaluate.
Right.
And I've talked to 2 or 3 consultants, and everybody thinks it's all intellectual on how you develop it, how you put the wood chips, the cellulose, how you blend things, how you locate it in the groundwater, things like that. All intellectual property that is not locked up in any one person. It's going to come out in a team, and we're going to adopt it.
Right. There's no vote coming on this. This is just observations to be shared.
And what other RFPs am I screwing up with this?
Well, I think screwing up isn't the word, but
No,
the question is anybody going to be excluded who we don't want excluded by this language? That's the question. And
I hope not.
if you're telling me P.O. Lombardo wouldn't be excluded and Mike McGrath is another one who has a proprietary interest?
Mike McGrath never applies for municipal. He's told me this.
Okay, all right.
I didn't talk to Mike McGrath.
Okay, Hilda?
I could imagine that, for instance, Primus Malta might apply because they have done it, or Phoenix, because they have done a lot of engineering jobs, a lot of eco-toilets of various kinds. They have more experience. they would be probably excluded. I'm just making this up, but I'm just trying to see, would those people be excluded
Sure,
that have the most?
that's a fair question.
The most
Fair question.
experience?
They would be excluded as being lead consultant as to evaluating what type of eco-toilet should we consider. And you make a good example. Phoenix has a best, they might be the best, and I know you think they are. I want to make it completely transparent that the lead consultant evaluates. If the lead consultant wants to team up with ABC Corporation, I don't care. It's the lead consultant that's legally responsible for the RFP.
All right, any further observations from the committee or the public on?
I just have a question. As it stands right now, are you planning to insert these paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 into every RFP?
Yes, and when we come to, it'd be interesting, the discussion on the RFP next week on the omnibus, you know,
Engineering.
Right.
that will be one where another person will be weighing in.
Yeah.
And that could be one. I don't think actually this would apply as much because that's such a broad.
Yeah, there's no proprietary interest there.
But yeah, every time you get another player at the table, you get
Could be.
another thought.
Could be. Well, one final thought, and we'll move on here, but if you took out the line that says, provided a signed statement that, and
Oh, I can take that.
you could leave, you're adding an extra burden there, and it could just be in your language anyway. Number 3, that last sentence, I think, would scare a good number of people. That reserving the right to seek full financial disclosure of their interests.
If someone has a proprietary interest in
Yeah.
ABC, and they say we do, and we don't know whether it's 100% of the company, 5%, I mean, I don't care how much money they make.
Right. I mean,
I just want to know how much of, it may be in the evaluation committee, they say, this is only 2% interest. This is not going to sway it. But if someone has 100% interest,
Well, I understand, but if you've precluded them from being the lead consultant and you say you're going to look at their full financial interest, you're probably going to scare them out.
well, you want to take out full financial disclosure? I mean,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
nuts, you know, but if that's
I mean,
the consensus that goes overboard.
Yeah, I think it's the only time I've ever seen that before is in the financial statements you give to the
Okay.
divorce lawyers.
No, fair enough, it might have been
Too much personal information.
What are you taking out, all of number 3 or the
the
last?
last sentence, the town. We don't care, we don't want full disclosure, so not sure what that means, you're right.
Okay,
Don't ask, don't tell.
all right. Let's now give Jerry a break and move on to 6B. Informational discussion with the Concom, re-inlet widening. Virginia.
Okay. The Conservation Commission would be pleased to meet with the committee. On the date we have is July 25th, which is a Wednesday at 7 o'clock. John Ramsey is available, and it will be a discussion between our committee and the Conservation Commission about inlet widening and the various issues that are related to inlet widening, fisheries, juvenile or habitat, flooding, sea level rise,
Right.
all of those. It's going to be an evening where they do not have their normal notice of intent and regulatory. So I think we will have a good solid time to discuss the potentials of that, and at the same time to hear what their concerns are, because when we come to a specific project, we will need to make sure that we have covered those bases. So if you would reserve Wednesday, July 25th for that.
Is Mr. Ramsey doing this pro bono?
Mr. Ramsey
no.
is, no, he's going to be,
We have to figure that out.
we have to figure that out.
Okay.
Right.
And we have, okay.
Yeah, it can be done, but it won't be for free. Okay, most of us were.
Sorry,
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry,
I just get a couple of points on that. I think it's great that this is being done, and the sooner the better. And I'm also wondering, we have 2 other demonstrations that we are looking at that will fall in their domain, the PRBs. and the shellfish. And I'm just wondering whether we would like to broaden this a bit. I mean, I don't know how much discussion, how much time we would have, but it seems that either that or we're gonna have to go back to them, and we should soon, on each of those. So whether we could broaden the agenda a little bit beyond inlet widening.
Okay, I can certainly ask whether instead of an hour, could it be an hour and a half? Or
Yeah,
I know it won't be the full evening. They do have other
Yeah.
issues to deal with.
I think we might want to go back, because each one of these would take up a fair amount of time. They obviously think shellfish is well within their domain, and
Well,
we know
PRBs are
PRBs are going to be within their
Within
domain.
100 feet of the water, right?
If
So-
we're within the 100 feet of the water.
Yeah.
Well, true, but
Yeah, so,
chances are good that at least some possibilities will be.
We'll
Yeah.
know.
We'll
I
know.
think,
We'll
I
know.
think we're not ready for PRBs. I don't think we have enough information. Shellfish.
The shellfish, yes.
Shellfish is a potential.
Well, you spoke to them on that.
Yeah, you came to that meeting with me, right, Ron?
I
You didn't? Maybe that's before we, yeah, we had an informational meeting with them to make sure that was okay to go.
Oh,
put this
you
thing to
let
pond,
them
so-
know about Little Pond.
But I just gave them an
Yes.
overview of what the
Right.
outline of the program was.
Right.
And that I just noted that we'd come back at some point when we had a consultant and had a plan and needed to consult with them about what the rules were going to be. So I think until we get the RFP out and we get our consultant on board, I mean, I think we can outline that we've got this thing, but until we get a little further into it, Ron, I'd say talking to them about shellfish, we might be on a little bit on the premature side. We may as well get a little further into the plan, because we have in the scope of work to have a meeting with the Concom. I think for the shellfish, and I think there's that in the PRB as well, as if I recall.
And for the viability test there, you took.
They're all set.
All set.
Yeah. What was their conclusion on that? That we did not need?
Noted, I cleared the notice of
Notice of-
intent, and I need to keep them informed that we're doing it, that's all.
So we filed a notice of intent, that was that?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason for pursuing this one now is,
Yeah.
if you remember, the county had
Right.
its initiative.
Yeah, right.
It was trying to get the state to provide some regulatory relief in terms of time and depth, and they've gotten nowhere with that. As far as we can tell, they haven't even had the conversation that they were hoping to have with the regulators. So the sense was, if we want pond openings or inlet openings to move at all, we should start our own conversation with our own conservation commission, and not wait for their conversation with the state to take place, because it's been a while and it hasn't happened. So.
Right. And specifically to inlet widening, the county hired Horsley and Witten to prepare the environmental notification form. So as an engineering company, they were given a job and they were paid, and they're sort of done. But that leaves us, this town, interested in inlet widening without any real engineering services. So the engineering RFP that you're going to see at next week's agenda, we have put that as one of the tasks that that this engineering company should be able to accomplish, if so directed, that they would be involved in inlet widening.
Okay, are there any other committee reports? Scheduling a road trip. We have now heard from the STEP, STEG, vacuum, and et cetera. The premise was that we ought to visit communities that have actually installed these things, talk to the people that have to run them and maintain them, and talk to some homeowners who have to live with them, to get a sense from their point of view, as opposed to hearing just from the vendors. Do people want to do that? And do you want to wait till after Labor Day? Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, I would tie this back into whoever we're going to get to do what I would call the harder engineering. It would seem like that's one of the things that they might be considering. So it might fold into whomever we get
Yeah,
in that regard. So, yeah, I'm fine with September.
fine.
I think it's also interesting that we're hearing in bits and pieces that there are examples closer to home than Gloucester.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can spend some time and
We don't have the
identify.
operational experience on, I got 2 of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
4 homes.
Yeah.
I would love. I wish I could go. I've talked to a number of people in different states.
Right.
I've got pros and cons on all of the systems. Enough to drive me batty, and you pretty soon.
So, okay, we'll find some closer places that are more parallel to our situation.
Yeah, Hyannis and P-Town, right down the street.
Marion, or, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Right, yeah, and he mentioned Mattapoisett. That was
Yeah. So there's
another one.
bunch
But some of them may just
Yes.
have one or two again, so we want to
Right.
make sure we're going to a place that has a good number.
Right.
And they've been in for a while.
And they've been in for a while,
Yeah.
right. July and August meetings. We have July 25th for the Concom, which is not a meeting of ours per se, but it's one we should all be wanting to go to.
Right.
We have the 9th of July reserved for us the Selectmen won't be meeting on the 9th, so we've taken the opportunity to meet on the 9th with ourselves and present what we expect to be the final CWMP.
That's a Monday.
It's a Monday. In the Selectmen's conference room,
Right.
not here.
A dry run.
We will have our dog and pony show and our slides and written material all prepared. And that'll be the public presentation and then.
Of this document.
Of this document.
Oh, that's right, too. It will be an open meeting, so
Right.
Yeah, so,
And-
two birds with one stone.
Right.
got it.
And the Selectmen's room is well-equipped with PowerPoint so that it goes right into the feed system. The people at home will be able to see it much more clearly than when it's taken off of a screen.
Right. This does involve putting together a PowerPoint somewhere between the 28th of June and the 9th of July. And
What's the time of the meeting on the 9th?
7 o'clock?
7:30.
7:30 rather, right.
Let's make it
And
simple.
are the selectmen going to be there, or is this? No,
But
it's just a public meeting.
It's
They
a
might be there.
public meeting. They
can-
might be there, but it's
Yeah.
not their meeting. That's
Right.
not their meeting.
Right. Yeah, so, right, 7:30.
Okay.
And then the following Monday is the 16th, and we are on their agenda to present the draft CWMP at that time. They are expecting to receive their copies on the 9th so that they have a week to read them, and then they will discuss it on the 16th. And hopefully, they will
Right.
approve it to be sent to the state.
And we also have our regularly scheduled meeting on the 19th. So, am I right, 19th?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 3 things going in July. Does anyone have any opinion on whether we should do anything in August? Because
4 in July.
4.
Yes.
The 16th, the 19th, and the 20th.
And the 20th, all right, fine.
Right.
4 in July,
So 4 in July,
Wow.
which gives,
which is why we maybe could take some time off in August.
which is why a lot
European
of
model?
people are thinking
Not
August.
the European one.
August, you know, this committee has done an enormous amount of work. We've been here till 10:30 or later every other week since October. I think taking a break in August would not be a bad thought.
I think you've earned it, Mr. Chairman. You've put in a lot of time.
You've all earned it. You drive here from Westport every night to get here. That's a haul.
Can I offer this? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know where we're at with the whole RFP process, but my guess is that we may be having to form some selection committees, however
Yes.
that occurs. And so I'm guessing that there might be a fair amount of work for members of this board during August anyways, without
Right.
coming to regular meetings, whether
Right.
different people on different selection committees and how that all
Right.
goes.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that if there's a need for this board to meet relative to any of the selection process as a full committee, we may have to meet. But I don't know
Right.
that the whole process, Jerry, if we ever have to come back together or not.
The way I understand it, the town manager will select the review committee. I anticipate he wants the chair to recommend probably at least one person for each RFP. He may ask for 2. The question is, he want 3 or 5? You know, we all have an opinion. So that will be self-driven. I think Eric needs to be able to recommend who he wants. And then, not just throw Steve out. If CDM applies, Steve can't be on any of them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
CDM Smith.
CDM.
Smith.
Right. Right, yeah.
Just because we're on TV, I'll get killed if I don't
The
say the full
19th
name.
of July then is the next time that we will have a regular meeting where
Right.
we don't have a big agenda already.
Good point,
Well,
It's an open,
good point.
next to it.
Yeah.
right.
Where we could put something on the agenda if we
Right.
needed. Like, for example, the one I was considering.
Yeah, like for example, I thought you might have thought of that. Okay. Yeah, we know where to find Steve in August, which will be out on a sailboat, I hope. But if we have to have a meeting, we'll let you know and have it. But it seems like we ought to be able to survive August without, we will have produced our CWMP in record time. We will have dealt with all of the,
Hopefully, yes.
all of the RFPs.
They
that
should be on the street.
we're counting on your
Right.
speedy
I need
production.
financial. One, just nod your heads that we expect Sia to be at these 4 meetings, because I think they're gonna be very important for her to come up to speed on what we're doing, how we think.
Sure.
Because, you know, part of the deal was that I have to tell her when to come, based on advice from you, so
Well, those meetings, I think we wanted to come, am I,
Right.
right?
What time are we on the agenda for the selectmen's meeting on the 19th?
16th.
On the 19th, I don't know the time
No,
yet.
16th is the select.
16th is the select.
Sorry,
meeting.
sorry,
19th is our meeting.
16th. 19th is us.
Oh, sorry, right,
Yeah.
the
16th.
chair will decide that at some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't put their agenda together yet, so-
Okay.
but we're on it.
I'm just trying to
Right.
write
At some point,
Not
we're
before
going to
7.
discuss exactly what tasks the new assistant is going to be doing. I mean,
True.
we don't need another honorary member of the committee who just does everything that we do.
Right.
It's not efficient.
That's right.
Right.
We did
I
put
agree.
out an initial list of proposed tasks and asked people to add to it. Since it's 11:15, I think we will ask you to add to it via
On the
email.
19th.
And we can take up the suggestions that people make at that time.
Sounds
The
good.
other input I need, folks, is this committee has $1 million to put out in the street. 100,000 has already been obligated but not spent for SMAS. And I can start counting off 40,000, 50,000, maybe
So,
another 50,000.
75.
Maybe 200,000. I need someone to tell me
Right.
what the guide is, because I could make it, but you people might not like. I'd use the
Right.
green sheet, and
Yeah,
but
no,
I'd
no, we're
like
not
some
gonna- no,
input.
no, yeah. It clearly would be on the green sheet, but we'll work on that with her and with you.
Because, you know, the RFPs, as they start going out, you know, we need to identify what's available. It's
Right.
only fair to the
Yep,
contractors.
fair enough.
Right.
I was just going to say the green sheet is the guide because I believe it's, more than $1 million.
Well, it certainly is, but it's also, I mean, some things aren't ready to spend
Right.
any money on
I-
yet.
I understand.
So
Right,
we're-
and the money hasn't been borrowed. It's authorized, but there's
We only have
an
1 million.
actual act of the town borrowing it. I just want to make one comment about August. The warrant for the fall town meeting closes something like September 10th. And we have on our schedule that there will be a fertilizer bylaw article in the fall town meeting. So there is going to have to be at least some subcommittee work on the fertilizer bylaw.
The fertilizer subcommittee intends to bring a proposal to the July 19th meeting
Oh, okay.
for discussion purposes at least.
All right, okay.
Are we meeting on the 26th also, or no? 26th of July? Is there any-
25th.
It's 25th.
25th with the Concom.
25th with the Concom, okay.
Yeah, 25th with the Concom at 7.
Right,
19th at 7:30 here.
Our regular
meeting.
yeah.
16th at whatever time the selectmen put us on the
Right.
agenda at their Monday
And
meeting.
that'll be about an hour or so.
And well, they're not expecting the whole presentation. I think they can watch it on TV on the 9th,
You don't.
which is, I think
Hopefully,
We have to discuss, you guys have to
Hopefully,
discuss
yes.
how you're gonna
that's
Yeah.
right,
market that.
that's right.
yeah, well, whatever they want, they will obviously get, but I don't think they're going to want the entire presentation that night. And the 9th is the other meeting, so 9th at 7:30. At the Selectmen's
Next
Conference Room.
week also, right? June 28th?
And 28th here, yes, in June.
So it's at 7:30 at the Selectmen's, but it won't be, it's 7:30, right? for-
7:30 for everything except the Concom, I guess.
Right, yes, the Concom is definitely at 7.
I move adjournment.
How about the minutes?
I move
Anybody-
the minutes
Anybody
of
seen the minutes?
the last meeting.
Want to move the minutes?
I'll second the motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I
Opposed?
ask a question?
Oh, sorry.
Not about the minutes.
We haven't adjourned yet.
Yes.
Before you adjourn, just a observation, which is if I'm just coming to meetings for the month of July, it doesn't have me, you're not using me to do other substantive
Right.
work. And so perhaps I should have a meeting with you or a subcommittee and sort of
Yeah.
sit down and say, you know, should I be synthesizing some of this report? Should I, you know?
Yeah,
that-
That would be our recommendation.
we should talk.
So why don't, at least we'll
Right.
have a kickoff discussion.
Right, I mean, there are some
Next week
things
or
that
so.
have been on our list for a long time, and we know one of them.
Yeah. I would like to just say that we would, if it were in the interests of you're getting up to speed, I would like to invite you to come to the Monday meeting of the Ecotoilet Committee next Monday, where we're going to discuss the whole summer's activities that we've got to put together if we want to get this project going. Now we've got everything in place, we can start discussing what we need to do. So if that were appropriate, then I would like to invite.
Okay, well, we'll work out a work plan
Yeah,
for
we
you
have
that
to.
will include some Ecotoilet stuff, along with the 100 other things we seem to have on our plate.
Yes.
Just give us the dates and the times, because I can work it into a task that will say, you're authorized to do up to X number of hours,
Yeah.
Right.
and it will be firm but flexible.
Okay, the minutes have been moved and seconded and adopted, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the only thing left is correspondence. Do we have any?
No, we did skip over status of committee approved RFPs.
We did.
Is-
Okay.
They've been delayed for a variety of reasons, some based on me, some based on the committee, but I think they're gonna start moving quicker now that I need some feedback on this. I'm assuming right now this appears with some minor modifications to go in, but it could be rejected by others. I mean, within management. I will double check with Frank. I think that was minimum clear. I already had checked with the AG's office. I don't think there's a need to send it back up to them. That just causes delay. Frank will move.
Yeah, we don't need any more advice from the Attorney General on this particular point. I think you've gotten it once, that's enough of that.
I'd like to ask if you can tell us what the position at this time is of the memorandum of agreement with.
George has to write it and submit it, because
No,
I asked George
No,
What has not
the
been
one the selectmen approved,
Well, the
MOU.
selectmen have approved.
for what?
They and
With Barnstable
the county.
County.
Well, when did they approve it? They approved.
They voted it,
Weeks
the
ago.
question,
Month
but
and
it
month.
hasn't been signed.
Nothing has happened.
Well, this gets back to what was in front of if it was the article I put in front of the selectmen to spend up to, or you put through me to the selectmen to spend up to 25,000 or 50,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
There was no agreement that I had. There was no agreement that was put in front of them. A few weeks ago, someone said, I think it was someone on the committee, said they're fine this MOU. I saw George 2 weeks ago. I said, George, where's the MOU? Said, has it been accepted by your own county people? Because I haven't sent it to Frank yet, because I haven't seen it. So as far as I know, if you have the MOU, send it to me.
This is not possible.
It's hardly possible that it didn't.
Where's the MOU? Who has it?
I have a copy of it.
Everybody has copies of it.
Everybody has
It was
copies,
adopted by this group, it was sent to the selectmen, and this premise that when things go to the selectmen, they don't actually get them is a new one for me.
It's the selectmen or policy matter. The town manager is the one that gets into the details of it.
Well, we're aware of that, but I think.
No.
This one,
If someone sends it to me, I'll start it through.
all right.
Because George doesn't
Okay.
even know it's through
But
his
I think
people.
you've got your answer, anyway.
I got my answer. I will send it to you and we'll hope that someone.
And that's the one the committee's approved. And
Yes.
George-
Okay.
And the selectmen.
And the
Selectmen.
Selectmen approved.
It's got to be in the selectman's office someplace.
It's got to be.
Who sent it to the selectmen?
Well, you
It
know,
was at a meeting.
the motion, have we had a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we can discuss this separately.